chat. Let me know we can see. We can see from Holly. All right, we're gonna get going. All right, Richard, you're already on that. Do a right, left. We're good to go.
Morning, Matt.
Hi, chat.
Morning, buddy. Hello. You just see the top,
It's the top of my head.
Good morning, everyone.
Actually, if I go like this, I think you guys can see it a little bit better. Somebody standing here.
Okay, I'll be out of your way.
Yeah, because we're gonna need to stand here because the speaker's like right here. So.
I'll be out of your way.
All right, guys. So, first of all, welcome to the first educational briefing by us here at 4-Star Strength. We, as a team, sat down and talked about things in 2024 that we wanted to accomplish. 2023, we wanted to start pushing a little bit harder on social media. We wanted to get a little bit more of our presence known out there of what we were doing in-house, what we did differently here at 4-Star. I think we started to accomplish that goal. 2024, though, we definitely started talking education. I've always been big on, all you guys know me on a like annoying level of sitting there and make you look at your lift, make you understand what's going on, making you as the athlete that's sitting here pushing yourself to, bust your ass and almost drop the barbell on your head, understand the whys and whats of what you're doing, because I think it's important for this sport. It is not a sport where you cannot disrespect what's going on because you can get hurt very easily doing it. Also, you're fucking fighting gravity. It's really fucking hard to do that. So the better you understand how to efficiently do it, the more understanding you're gonna have, and it's gonna be less stressful. So with that said, what I wanted to start doing is also kind of raising the bar on what our facility gives our members. Generally, when it comes to seminars, clinics, and stuff like that, there's usually like a big price ticket. There's like a $500, $1,000 seminar ticket and shit like that. And I said, fuck that. I said, we are going to raise the bar on what our members know, how they're educated, and what other people and see our people doing. That's what we're doing. So quarterly, we'll be having these educational briefings. Each quarter, there'll be a new topic, and we are basically just going to go college mode. And in a different setting than, oh my God, okay. So when we talk about like the bar coming in off the floor, it's got to sweep in, right? It's got to sweep in so we can get that nice S curve, blah, 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 rant, because you're literally huffing and fucking puffing, dying, trying to catch your breath. There's 17 other athletes, or like you have music in your fucking ears and you don't really want to think because you're under 85%. It's not an ideal really learning environment, hypothetically, to start like hunkering down and going through classroom theory on the economics of environment and movement and saving energy while lifting. So this is just another way to learn, which I think can be really helpful for learning the sport. It's not always the easiest while training to sit there and like go into deep thinking mode, because then what do we do, guys? We overthink, right? So this is just another way to learn, right? So that was the whole point of this and what I wanted to do. Thank you for coming. Those of you that did, hopefully you get something out of it. Did you really get pulled over, bud? Yes. Did you get a ticket? No. Sorry, bud.
Holly says the further you walk away, the worse the audio gets.
Yes, sorry, Holly. All right, so yeah, Trace. What happened? Drew. Guys, Drew was going 114. So he got a ticket. Sally, go take the heater all the way down to 55, please. Trace, we are stuck right here, by the way. The audio gets killed when we walk away.
Or at least like face towards the
Yeah, that's
laptop.
fair. Face it.
Okay, all right. That's what I figured.
Yeah. All right, so the topics of discussion for this one, guys, is going to be the jerks. All right, heading into the Arnold or heading into the gym's heavy cycle, and which just everyone is capping out for the Arnold. We wanted to get jerk mechanics really in depth one last time, being 2 weeks out. All right, so we're going to start jerk mechanics and what is really and should be going on when it comes to the barbell and its movement with you and the barbell as a barbell body connection or organism. All right, then we wanted to go over some negative effects on jerks and how the body is moving or how the bar is moving, why they occur, and how to remedy, and discussing how to actually remedy that movement and error. Section 2, we're going to be going over. Tracy has been hunkering down, and since we started this cycle for the gym membership, well, we have 2 weeks left on the cycle, so 14 weeks ago, I think, 13 weeks ago. Just set up, lift off, all right, till blue in the face. She wanted to just come in and kill everyone on that, which she was appropriate to say. We had a lot of good movement when it came through bar path through the middle, getting knees back, pretty much like from below the knee position. Turnovers were getting a lot better, but really those liftoffs were slacked out. They were lazy, and some of our athletes still, so we need to hunker down with that. So we're going to break down one last time on what appropriate setup should look like, because when you guys go to a competition, this is your one and only chance where nothing is moving. You are 100% in control at this point. And then we wanted to talk bar path. So leading with that liftoff phase, the bar path, bringing the bar in with you and how its trajectory from that, what it's going to do, how you are in control in regards to your hips, with your arms, bringing that bar with you, how it should look, some variations of bar path, and really give you access to watching your own bar and your own body and be able to kind of look at your own bar path and maybe even start to understand that a little bit more on a higher level. So when we talk to you or you're watching your own film, especially remote athletes, you can start to kind of think about this shit at more of a 201 level versus a 101 level. So the split jerk. All right, we're going to be going over the jerk mechanics and what actually should be going on. All right, what do we actually know and how are we applying it correctly? In my professional opinion, that I'll go on record saying, the split jerk is instructed first off, not only too early in most athletes' careers, but it's also taught incorrectly. All right, the movement's usual instruction develops at the base with an athlete being taught dip and drive against the weight, then catch it overhead. Raise your head if that is basically how you learn jerking. Dip, drive, catch it. Right? Bunch of half-held hands, but yes, mostly the class here. Those of you that are remote, I'm assuming that's also what we saw. All right, this will lead to success on a short term. Yes, dip, drive, you put your body into it, and then you catch it somewhere overhead. Okay, that is going to work short term because eventually the weight is going to win. We tend to forget that the whole sport, snatches, cleans, jerks, they are a change of direction. The whole sport, and the way you guys need to start thinking of this on a higher level, and the way coaches think of this that are educated, is it is a change of direction and a displacement sport. We are displacing our body under the load as we traject the load upward. Let's blow some minds. All right. Learning is an opportunity to create, all right, opportunities. Sometimes we're going to have to erase things that we think about or theories or the way we think something is moving mechanically. Every now and then, unfortunately, Tracy or myself, or you guys have watched a video and that big fucking ugly light bulb pops on, right? And it kind of breaks our fucking brain. Yeah, we've had that moment in weightlifting. It's like, but I thought it was this way. I've thought about it like this for so long. And it's like, oh, fuck, that's really going to mess me up because I've really been confident in this way for so long is how it should go. And you got to sit there and like kind of chew on it and think about it and relearn it. The jerk should be executed first and foremost by the legs. The jerk is a leg dominant movement. It is not an arm movement. Okay? One of my favorite things when I was a CrossFit coach for years and years, those of you that don't know, I taught CrossFit for many, many years. From 2007, while I was in the Army, to fucking 2014, technically, when I taught my last class. Athletes would come up to me like, my arms are sore, I can't do any more jerks. I'm like, that's the fucking problem. Like, that's so not good. Right? It is a leg dominant movement. All right, so this quote that I have on here, this is all from a textbook. The arms of the athlete should come into play before the legs have fully straightened. Before the instant the barbell separates from the chest. So the arms are active into the steel. They're not limp noodles, all right? They're active, they're taut. This, however, does not mean the athlete should begin pressing the bar up with their knees still bent. So Tracy, if you could walk in front of the screen, we're just gonna demo this real quick. Yeah. Remote athletes, basically, I'm gonna walk her through. Yep, so Tracy would be dipped into the position. From here, what they're saying is at this point, Tracy is not pressing. Just do like a little press. She's not pressing like that at the bottom of her dip. Okay, guys, that's basically what they're saying here. But she is active into the steel. Does that make sense? She's initiated tension. So that way, when she goes to change direction, she's in control. All right, thank you. The athlete should, in fact, use the arms and shoulders to push the trunk down and away from the barbell, down into the squat or split position. Does that make sense? Okay, that is how the split is actually done. The kinetic energy of the descending body is transmitted to the barbell through the pressure of the hands of the bar. So we dip, we drive, we extend, and while extending, we are pushing down against the steel. We are pushing torso down. We are displacing downward. Does that sound different to anyone? Raise your hand if that wording sounds different, or that whole theory of like we're pushing down after we drive. Right. So this is a silly fucking diagram I made at like 1 a.m. trying to describe this in pictures, because sometimes fuck words, people don't learn from them, okay? Sometimes images are better. So the athlete dips, they reach a controlled period for a change of direction, which in the sports community we call braking, right? It's like braking with a car, you have to controlled do it, right? And Sally's driving and she just slams the fucking brakes to turn right. It's a little dangerous. So it's controlled, all right? And then she changes direction and re-accelerates coming out of that hole. Now, the thing to note out is look at the dip starting position of the arrow. And then look at the drive tippy top of the arrow. They're the same height. Everyone see that? That is actually critical theory. So the top arrow, or the first arrow rather, where the dip starts, and then the drive tippy point of that drive arrow. The drive should not exceed the start of the dip for a very efficient jerk. Anybody ever heard that before? Yes? It is over driving. And you can actually fuck your timing up by doing that. This is a very common thing in beginners, very common thing in muscle-bound people that are too strong getting into the sport, very common in CrossFitting, right? It's a lack of control and timing. Then as we hit the top of our drive, we're immediately pushing down. And that's what this image represents. Does this image help people more than words? There we go, cool. All right, and then the bottom push down, that's based on the movement, whether it's power jerk, split jerk, splat jerk, squat jerk, fucking one-legged jerk, I don't know, whatever the fuck you're doing. But that's all dictated on what you're doing is how far you're going down. Next slide. Okay, good old Lydia. All right, the reason why I put Lydia in is not because I'm obsessed with Lydia. That's a whole nother variable. All right. The reason why, I'll get it, Richard. Yeah. The reason why is because Lydia has a very unique style of jerking. All right. Most people label it as what's called a punch jerk. What I want you guys to see is that her control of her barbell and her dip and drive, you can see the barbell's oscillation on her body and on her frame. If an athlete doesn't have this control of the steel on her body, the bars flex on her frame, the weights would oscillate, which means the bend of the steel and the whippiness, it would be all over and her timing would be absolute trash. The weight would still be going down as she's going up. Now, because she's in extreme control of this, she can actually utilize the bars flexing and now rebend coming back up on the tiniest millisecond to help her get that weight back up. And that's why I like this video. So again, so if we slow this down, I'm gonna mute it. I don't know what that did for you guys remotely. If that was hellacious loud, I apologize for any volume issues. Probably just blowing out everyone's eardrums. But from here, pay attention to up here. Okay, watch the weight, watch the stack. She's 100% in control of that weight. And she continues pressure with her upper body, pushing down.
The biggest thing to note here, guys, when you're watching this is you're going to see the plates and the end of the barbell flex and drop. And the second that the plates and the barbell start rebounding up, she's with it. And she's using the upward force of that flex to pop the bar up and through. So her timing is impeccable. We talked about bar oscillation and her being in control of that timing. That's what you guys are looking at.
Yeah. Now the conversation for you guys at your level isn't you guys figure out how to oscillate your bar. Because Brandy, I love you. You're not going to do it at 45. Maybe if we like duct tape them to a PVC pipe, but we'll probably snap the pipe and infect the jugular. Probably not the safest idea, right? It's the rhythm, guys. As much as most of you, I'm sure, are fucking fantastic dancers, as I've had to witness many of you dance, Coach Tracy. Yeah, it's unfortunately, it is a rhythm sport, all right? A very well-known coach once told me you have to be a bear that does ballet. Okay, that is the way to be a very efficient weightlifter. All right, and as we watch these next couple jerk videos, we're gonna be talking about key points, but really it's pay attention to rhythm and timing. Rhythm and timing. All right, so next one, we're gonna watch a video of Tarokity. So there's gonna be some power jerks in here, all right, because I really do like the power jerk. I think it's a very good movement to learn in depth. Also, I think it's viewing purpose to really understand what's going on in the jerk. When we talk about this push down, I think it's the one you can actually see easier to get to understanding the push down piece of the split. So this is another video. This is Tarokity, a young version of him. And we're not gonna talk about like if he's jumping back a little bit, shit like that, because you know it's 230 kilos. I'm not gonna like yell at the guy. The thing to pay attention on this one, right, is on this video, guys, the stack is good, right? I'm happy with that. It's watch how fast on this video and then the next one, because this is a big common error that we see is athletes will take too long for this piece in particular. Is they dip, they drive, and they wait to push down. They heave the bar off of themselves and they start to understand, okay, I get it, coach. I got to drive with my legs. I got to shove with my shoulders into the bar. I'm getting that. I feel it. Yeah. And then what? All right. Well, that's the part where you now need to be displacing immediately. Fucking split second immediately. You should be pushing down on this thing. And in this video, in Romanova's video, you can see how fast this action takes place. Pushing down. Thank you. So again, we see dip, we see extension, push down. You guys see how fast that happens? Like this is 0.25 speed, and it is still fast. It is still quick. The other notable thing is like on this power jerk is like his torso stays stacked through that drive and into the receiving position as much as you can. Okay, Anastasia Romanova, okay, probably one of the top females of Team Russia in 2015. She was a power jerker as well. 69 kilo class, she was a little taller. Pretty damn good female, all right? She, again, power jerker. Power jerking for the females is a little bit more rare. But again, beautiful stack. This one's already slowed down thanks to Nat. But you can really see that push down in this video. You can see the proximity of the barbell really well in this one. So if we go frame by frame. So here we see again, nice stack, hips stay above, heels. We don't see any shift forward. Okay, we see a little bit torso displacement, nothing too bad. All right. From here, we're gonna see that nice drive out, extension, shove, and then push down. And she keeps pressing till the bar is back. So again, just another really good example of that. Okay, this is Elia Guerrera. All right, this was one of my training partners that I was lucky enough to train with my time at Risso Sports in Maine when I was training with Coach Ivan Rojas. All right, Elia was a Cuban. He lifted since he was a child. 7 years old, he was plucked from his family, is the terms we'll use. So he lived for Cuba many, many years. In 1994, he beat Kendrick Ferris at Pan Am's in Chicago. If that gives you any idea how long this dude had been lifting. This was 2014 or 15, maybe 2013. Rogue, what's up? This is actually a good conversational piece, everyone. Guys, this is the Arnold. Or no, this is AO. This is AO championships in Dallas. Sorry. So this is what AO used to look like. Burks, memories, right? Yeah, yeah. So all you guys that sit there and like, what are our fucking funds going to?
It's that stage, dude.
Yeah, yeah, it's the stages. Stages. Guys, this is what we fucking used to lift on. I mean, look at the fucking loaders, man. That's a child. That's not the Doherty's children. We upgraded even to the Doherty's children. Literally, his kids are better than our loaders back then. So anyways, Elliot was a fucking animal, guys. All right, he really taught me how to jerk. I'm not joking when I say like Elio and Ivan used to hit me with a fucking stick. Like that everyone remember like in movies and shit, like the long teacher stick, the like little pole. Like Ivan and Elio had a fucking pole that would hit me in the back with while I was in the rack position to like get me to tighten up. And he was the dude that like taught me how to jerk. But like, fuck man, watch 180 move.
Guys, stay tight. Yeah. Oh,
Like,
so
dude,
easy.
this guy was 34. 34, been lifting since he was 70.
Yeah. Oh, so easy.
But like, again, I've been doing it since he was 7. You know, and the cool thing, not to go too much into his backstory, but like Elio fled Cuba. He left his wife and his kid to come here, have a career in weightlifting or get a job, and then now they actually live in Texas happily. But that displacement, guys. And then for Elio, the biggest thing is watch the arms, the lockout. Just pressure on 100% down into it. And like we talk about that continued pressure and soft elbows or wonky elbows. I got you, Elise. Right? When we're learning the jerk, raise your hand if you guys have had bouncy elbows. Right? That is because what he's doing here isn't going on. You're still driving up. You're driving up really hard. And like whether you're driving up with your legs, you're driving up with your arms, it's a downward displacement issue. You're not pushing down into the lockout. You're driving up too much. You're pushing up with your arms too much, or you're launching it too much with your legs. We actually need you to displace down. And this video is a really good example of how hard and aggressive the downward displacement needs to be to get to that solid locked out position. Elise, question.
Yeah, when you're talking about the push down, are you referring to like the directed lockout of the arm placement
Yes.
against the bar?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, the push down is after Elio or a lifter has driven the bar off of their body through the shoulder shrug. Their arms are active into the bar. So now that all vertical, right, kinetic energy has been transferred from legs and torso into the bar, its direction up has been dictated basically at this point. While you're in free space, you're like free floating, you're not going to be able to press it, right? If we were floating in space, you can't press it. So you've done all the kinetic upward movement you've done. Now you have to displace yourself down is another way to kind of think about that. Yeah, any question?
Trying to go back to this. You showed that picture where arrow up, the arrow down, talking about how important that jerk, like the push up matches the drive down matches the push up.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that? Because I've never heard that.
See it
I've
really
never-
well in this video.
What?
You can see it really well in this video.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't go up on his toes at all on that drive. Like,
Yeah.
If you watch his feet are so solid and flat the entire time.
Yep.
By default, if you don't go up on your toes in your drive, you will be driving the same as you did.
Yeah. Okay. So Yanni's question was basically, so you guys on remote understand. Yanni's asking if we can go and elaborate on the triangle doodle, why the extension should match the extent of basically the start of the lift.
Yeah, and also like practically, like, how do I think about that?
Yeah. So the extension of the jerk should really just come up into the balls of the foot. Okay. So as we dip and we drive, the extension should come to the balls of the feet. I'm turning here, remote guys. So if you can't hear me, just tell Richard. Because if we come into the balls of our toes or balls of the feet and we extend into the toes, that's what's going to get us up way too high. Then we start to shift into our toes, which then we start to put forward drift. Okay, so we start to go forward now. So we've made it forwardish. So that is exceeding way too far. We've moved forward. So that's forward displacement. We don't want that. But also from here, extension has already happened. Like we've squeezed the glutes, we've squeezed all our muscles. We're done. Going higher into it, this is the weakest part of our extension for the jerk. We need to now be displacing down. So there's no need to go high. The higher we go, what are we going to do from the ground? If we lob ourselves up really high, we do what from the ground? Yeah, we jump, right? The further we are from the ground in weightlifting, the longer it takes to get back down. The longer time you have between you and the ground, the more time for error occurs. That's why when we watch all these baddies, like they're right on the ground, right? Some of these motherfuckers look like they don't even leave Earth, but you can like watch them and like if me and Tracy had like 2 pieces of paper, we'd be like, pull the piece of paper out, right? That's because the closest you can stay is ideal, all right? But like as you guys are learning, you guys have to learn what vertical extension is, and the weight starts to keep you down. When we're teaching you, like I'm sitting here, I'm telling Brandy, fucking jump. And if Brandy does this and she's like, no, Brandy, fucking jump. I want to see her extend because I'm trying to train her body to violently extend. Okay. If I sit there and I yell at Ryan because Ryan's jerk is like a cheerleader and she's fucking yay and like starfishing, like you told me to jump, be exploded. Like, yeah, but now we're like creating new problems because now your jerk has literally taken 7 seconds to complete a landing. Like now we have whole new problems because now the weight is coming down latent because you've now driven so high, exceeding your start position, that now your feet aren't getting placed, but the weight is coming down. Does that make sense? It does. So we want to stay within that starting height because we're going to be able to displace our feet quickly, get our base established. The weight will come onto us, landing with us. So that would be barbell, human organism is all together and together on the one way. Thank you.
Guys, stay tight.
Dan, you said something. You said when you extend and squeeze your glutes. What muscle? Like, I didn't think about that. I didn't know that. Like, what are you supposed to activate?
Tracy, fire.
Um,
I'm stupid. I'm not like Tracy. I don't. I say this because this is my education. I'm literally telling you, Tracy and me have literally argued because Tracy will be like, I'm going to give you this drill to activate your glutes. And I'm like, I don't feel it. I lift with my fucking bones as far as I'm concerned. I'm brain dead with my muscles. Like, it's just what it is. I don't think about that shit. I just don't feel them. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm great. Like, Tracy kills it when it comes to that type of shit. So she can answer that one.
So when it comes to telling you guys to like fire and squeeze like minute muscle groups during a movement like this, we try to stay away from like, oh, I need your scaps set down and I need this tight, I need this tight. Basically your entire trunk should be a pillar of tension. So in that second, when you're sitting there to set in for your jerk, right? You're squeezing your upper back, you're bracing through your core, your glutes are turned on, right? Your leg muscles are turned on. That's why we tell you guys, don't sit here and have your legs locked. Don't be in a passive position. Your knees are slightly bent. Every muscle here is turned on, okay? When I go to sit into my dip, it's like a quarter front squat. Everything is super tight. Now, in that drive, in that split second where your feet leave the earth and start to go into your split, if you lose any of that tension that you just created in your trunk, you're going to land and you're going to be soft, right? Whether it's in your legs, whether it's in your core, whether it's in your upper back, if you lose any of that created tension that you established in the dip, as we're now kind of splitting and going into our receiving position, shit's gonna start getting hard, right? So if your glutes, for instance, relax, Soph and I were working on this the other day. If your glutes are relaxed and your legs aren't turned on, but your upper body is, you're gonna start doing this, or you're gonna start collapsing this way, or you're gonna start having issues in your low back because now your legs aren't turned on enough to support all the load overhead. Whether you stacked it in the right position and you're locked out or not, you've lost some of that tension that you created. Does that make sense? So basically, when in doubt, everything should be fucking tight. And you have to keep that tension from the dip to the drive to the split. No, I never used to swear this much until
Huh? You always talk like a pirate.
Is there closed captioning for,
I don't know. All right, guys. So we're gonna burn through these pretty quick. All right, because you'll have the slides and stuff like that. Okay, so the next couple frame by frames we're gonna go over because these are ideal, beautiful positions. All right, most of these guys should be autonomous movement at this point. All right, what does that mean?
No, it's a pickup shirt.
Someone confidently fucking say it. Thank you. Okay. Fuck, it's not a guess. Jesus Christ. Thanks, Burks.
Thank God you got that right.
Yeah. Fucking nailed it. College boy. All right. So, all right. So, some of you guys, before I even go into this, I'm going to preface like some of you guys love to fucking overthink some simple shit. Like me and Tracy are just like, stop. All right. Stop overthinking that shit. You don't need to be. Okay. So, we're going to go through this. There's 5 frames. We're going to see this discussion. Then there's going to be some subframes. So just look at it in a different light. Because again, I really appreciate that people learn differently. The reason why, like Matt, hey, why did you grab Jason Lopez to demonstrate with this fucking crazy rack position? All right. The reason why is quite literally, guys, that rack position is to show you that it's not about your fucking arms. Does that make sense to everyone? I chose somebody with the quote unquote untraditional rack position of a low rack position. All right. When I had my amazing range of motion and flexibility, all right, used a rack, all right, because it's not about your arms. Your arms are support mechanisms and guide mechanisms. All right. The legs, the torso, the trunk, all that up from the ankle. That's what's going to do the work. So that's why I use this demonstration, because you can also see him keeping that or modifying it slightly to do the work here. Your guys' rack positions are your guys' rack positions. What coach adjusts it to is for you. Candace, when I adjust her rack position, is going to look different than Hannah's. All right? And then 6 months later, I may fucking adjust it again. All right, Burks has lifted for fucking years. And I've still sat there with him and had conversations about, hey man, I think this needs to adjust or maybe fidget with this a little bit, stuff like that. It's always about getting ideal movement. Don't get boxed in because you think something's perfect. That's a big, big error. And I think a lot of beginners, because you guys are all beginners, all right, said maybe like 1 or 2 people in this gym in particular, like by my definition, like me and Richard had this conversation, like it's, don't get boxed in because like you think something is how it should be. Like you're fucking learning stuff, all right? Change things up. See if you can get more ideal movement by having that conversation with your coach. But anyways, so that's why I chose Jason. All right, so as we look at his body, we're gonna see all these things, guys. What to seek on the setup? You stood up to clean, right? Or you're taking out of the rack, or you're taking out of the box. Guys, they're not fucking different. FYI, unless some of you guys really love to head fuck yourself and you're like, oh my God, it feels so different out of the rack. Fucking use your muscles then, okay, right? Tracy just told you guys how to. So midfoot balance, guys. Midfoot balance should be acquired. You should not be in your toes. Should not be all the way back in your heels. Stack torso and hips. Richard, you want to use that little mouse to guide along? Okay. The torso and hips on Jason is stacked. All right. Yeah, like where I.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
Yes, on him. All right. The feet are in the pulling stance with. This is the one. This is one, guys, that I think you guys, because you're huffing and puffing and you're exhausted, a lot of you guys forget to do. You guys will stand up a clean and you won't move your fucking feet. You will not move your feet to a more fucking ideal driving position. All right. Now, again, that's not for everyone, but for most athletes, you need to adjust your feet. All right. And it's not for everyone because some athletes will clean and land in a position that is okay to jerk from. It's again, a coach athlete conversation. But generally, most of you guys should be readjusting your feet out of the cleans squatted position to a pulling stance, AKA a jumping stance. All right, the jerk rack is used, not a squat rack. You should not be elbows straight ahead, super high, front rack position. It's not ideal. And guys, with everything, there's a little fucking asterisk, like, well, so-and-so fucking does it. All right, cool. 1 out of fucking 500,000 is an outlier. And what do we do with outliers? Okay, bar resting on body. Okay, we're not pressing the bar. We're not holding it up. And because Zach's a little fucking data dork, yes, we take note of outliers. We don't fully omit them. And we consciously know they exist. So we don't draw conclusions from outliers. All right, hands and arms are relaxed. All right, so at this point, guys, we're not like pressing the bar off of our body, no matter how uncomfortable it is in our trachea. All right, and toes slightly turned out. This is another one, guys. Not a lot of athletes can proficiently jerk with their toes turned forward. Raise your hand if you literally have fucking heard that for the first time in your life, that you should not have your toes forward on your jerk.
Yeah, I don't think anyone
Should we
said
send
that.
the interns to tell them? Or should we go? We'll talk later, boys.
And you guys, this goes back to what Sally was asking about getting your glutes engaged. When your toes are turned out in this position, you go to dip. This is going to get your glutes engaged better than if you have a neutral foot. It's also going to make it easier for you to keep the balance in the feet versus shifting everything forward and using hips. You go to dip.
And there's the dip. All right, guys, so on the dip, midfoot balance remains. Holy shit. All right, guys, Candace, I got you. On the dip, guys, midfoot balance remains. This is right off the bat where error number 1 happens. Athletes shift their weight. Okay, we let the weight take us, we shift forward. Okay, so we shift forward into the front of our foot and the fucking lifty is going forward. All right, that is a huge, huge error. That happens a lot. We have to keep the weight in the middle of our foot, on our ice skate, on our rollerblade, however we want to call it. All right, on our Nike swoosh, on our Reebok triangle, whatever we want to call it. Stack torso and hips remain. All right, he is staying upright. That's also a big error that happens. We let the weight take us forward, so we get out of stack. Rack doesn't fall or shift. Jason has literally lifted his elbows slightly to help him support the frame. Everybody see that? Richard, let's do that lefty righty thing on the keyboard. Just go left, right, left, right, left, right. Boop, 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 boop. Watch the elbows, right? Boop, 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 boop. Right? A little bit of support has happened. All right. Hands and arms don't over grip. He's not death gripping this bar. Okay, he's tight with it. He's not death gripping. Ankles load the weight. Guys, the closest joint to the ground loads the weight. Tracy's the one with the kinesiology degree, correct? Not me. All right, but in that realm, all right, the joint closest to the ground is the load-bearing joint. So guys, when you like squat, that's the joint that's actually taking on the load. And that's why, to go off topic a little bit, when you guys squat, and we talk to you guys about like your knees and shit, and your hips, and you're shifting all over the place, we're so fucking anal about you guys getting out of your heels and going into your toes. And I'm sitting there screaming at Sally across the gym about the sliver of light I can see under her heel because she's hurting her knees. She's putting herself in a dangerous position. Because the ankle should be loading the weight. It's the joint closest to the ground. All right, because that's just how it should be. All right, safe. All right, hips stack right on heels. That's a good stack position. Candace, question? Yep, go back. Yep, at this point, the bar's just resting on her body.
Now your upper back is tight, so your lats, your scaps are engaged, but you're not pushing up into the barbell trying to get it off of you yet. You're not initiating that piece until you actually go to drive.
Yep, don't be doing that. Yep. This is literally your only time. This is your only time, Candace, after you stood up a heavy ass clean, grinded it out, to sit there and get your fucking breath and chill. This is your only time, your one thought. Maybe fucking listen to me on the side or Trace on the side about to cue you, or to sit there and be like, fuck, that was heavy, onto the jerk, and then you get tight and go. But you want to rest. That's your only time, so let the bar just sit on your body. Okay, next. All right, so this is just another way to look at it, guys. A different image. All right, a side view. See, learning in different forms, guys. All right, you guys can read the text on the left on your own. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to talk about the image on the right. On the image on the right, guys, you can see some fun, fancy lines that keeps everything stacked. Right, we see the hips staying over the dip. Ankles are loaded. Controlled downward movement on the dip. All right, this is super important, guys. When we dip, all right, it is controlled. It is a controlled dip. It is not super slow though. All right, it has to be controlled, but with speed. You're building momentum, right? Lydia, when she did that punch jerk, it wasn't slow. Lydia's strong, but she ain't gonna punch like 145 from the fucking like slow ass dip and basically press it. She ain't gonna do it. All right, it needs to be kind of thought about. Going back to our driving analogy, like it's taking a turn, right? We've all seen like race cars and shit, right? We've got to kind of pump the brakes as we take a turn. We've got to pace it out so we can come out of it fast and aggressive. Anyone understand that reference? If not, Richard, next slide. Bingo, right? A little bit of cars. Who doesn't like cars? All right, so we'll kind of fast forward here, but if everyone knows the scene.
Right, that makes perfect sense. Turn right to go left. Yes, thank you. Or should I say no thank you? Because in opposite world, maybe that really means thank you. Crazy grandpa.
Yeah, Drew, this might be it today, So this is a good example of when you guys just dip really fast. And no control, all right? So gotta have some control. All right, I got a giggle out of Burks, that's good, that's a win. All right, so now when we start coming out of the dip and the drive, all right, we need to start accelerating. Now the drive is continued mid-foot. We drive mid-foot, we're not driving through the front of our foot. We are in the mid-foot. The arch of our foot is another way to word it. Aggressive leg drive. We are fucking pummeling the ground. We are pushing earth away. We are exploding. We are being a fucking rocket. We are crushing the ground. However the hell you want to word it. Your fucking X is under you. I don't give a shit how you word this thing. All right? Whatever you want to do it. It's got to be aggressive though. All right? The torso continues to push into the bar. That, ladies and gentlemen, is crucial. Your torso is driving into the steel. Ram your fucking body into the steel. All right, that is what's going to make it continue going up. Shoulders should drive vertical. This is a big flawed movement point, guys. You guys love to dip, not you guys in general, of course, but like athletes. We dip, we drive, and we shrug, and we all shrug forward. Right? We shrug forward. Our shoulders rotate inward, and we push the bar where? Okay? Me and Tracy ask you, hey, did you do your accessories? And you motherfuckers shrug beautifully up. I don't know. Beautifully straight up. I don't know. So up, guys, not forward. It's again, the weight is making you do that. So counter it. Be active. Body and bar should reach peak acceleration here. This is the fastest point, right? We just watched a lot of pros do it. You guys can easily tell, right? They've driven hard and aggressive at this point. The bar is not driven off the body with the upper body. Is that starting to make sense? Yes, no, go fuck myself. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Now, the drop. Okay, the drop, the push under, however we want to word it. Bar is disconnected off the body. All right. Aggressive fucking press with the arms. Down, 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 down. We're pushing as hard as we can to push down and displace our body. The feet have begun the split process. There are literally studies, guys, where the push down, an athlete pushing down against an object in place, all right, they can speed up their feet splitting into place. All right, there was a study done where it was actually other college sports, and they had an affixed barbell trying to tell the athletes to move their feet, and they were putting the bar at different heights on like a rig, like a squat rack, and telling them to push down against the bar at different heights into a split position. And at different heights, the athletes were able to get quicker, 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 quicker by exuding force upon the bar downwards. Right? There is science behind this. You can actually, the more you press, the faster you can move your legs. Your body and brain connection is that strong because your body's like, what the fuck happens if I don't do my thing with the legs to my knees and shit? Like it starts to panic and you literally start to fix yourself because it needs to do something to get under. All right. The body and bar should reach peak acceleration. All right. Bar remains being pushed close and then starts to get back. So as we continue this upward pressure, we're going to also do this cool thing because we're stepping through. As we continue to press, 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 and we're starting to split, we're actually going to press ourselves through. All right, and I think that's where a lot of errors come in, is you guys think that the step out for the split is something that just needs to happen. What you're doing is actually displacing yourself forward when you split. So that way, as you press up and back, you actually push yourself through. It all happens at the same time to get this nice step through because you're aggressively pressing up and you're stepping forward. So this nice step through happens and the bar gets back behind you. I got you. All right, so you need to continue to keep the bar close while you do that, because if you let it go in front of you, even if you step out real nice and aggressively, it's still in front of you. The athlete does not stop pressing into the bar. You have to continue forcing yourself downward until you get to the full locked out position, not staring at you. Triggered after those fucking snatches the other day. Yes, Elise.
You were talking about when your head through the hole.
Yeah.
Is it before you push down or is it during the extension?
As you've extended, the second that bar is coming off your body and it reaches about like the neck chin level, you should be pressing down. As the bar is then getting about like eye level, you're starting to try to figure out how the fuck to step through and get that bar back behind you. Next slide. Split. All right, we're gonna burn through these pretty quick. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. Okay, press under continues to lock out. We're continuing to press. We're still pressing. It's not over. Fat lady hasn't sung. Stacked torso and hips remain, right? This again continues on. Hips and legs actively stopping downward momentum. Guys, this is a silly fucking confusing one. I've had to work with athletes where like they literally split jerk and it's just like they keep getting pushed down. Like not even their leg is sliding. That was literally just me on the slippery fucking floor. But they go down and it's just like Tim Tebow, knee to the ground. And we're not even talking heavyweight. We're talking beginner with like 90 pounds in a CrossFit gym. They split jerk, knee to the ground. They split jerk, knee to the ground. They don't understand like in that split position, they have to squeeze muscles, right? And Sally, I was going back to the question you were asking Tracy, like you literally just have to learn how to like squeeze and stop. I've even used cueing of like land and start trying to stand up, right? That's the total counter motion to going down. So that should get you to use your muscles and that's kind of helped. I got you, Sal. You have to actively squeeze. And guys, it gets fucking hard. Hey, Zach, at 180, how hard is it to fucking stop going down? It's pretty fucking hard, right? Yeah, like you've got to really fucking try, okay? It's okay. You got to try it a few times. Because it's just, you got to get the angle right. Like your knee slightly forward makes it fucking 10 times harder. So that's why we fight so aggressively for these beautiful angles and stepping out right. The front foot should be flat and the knee at a 90 degree. That's ideal, right? There's always gonna be an asterisk. Yason is, his body frame kind of gives us this weird wonky back leg angle. Back leg angles, guys, kind of come down to the athlete. It's what they can do proficiently, repetitively, consistently to define their technique, and then also without injury. That's pretty much what it comes down to. If I have an athlete where like that's what they look like, and they're not getting hurt, and it's consistent, they're not running the bar forward, they're loading, I see a good recovery that's controlled, I'm not gonna fucking sit there and demand they change it, right? Every textbook you kind of see from common knowledge is like, the right angle, the back leg should be 135 plus or minus 5 degrees, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just needs to be loaded. I got you, Drew. All right, it just needs to be loaded. Yuri Vardanian, if you guys want to watch, Yuri Vardanian had one of the most disgusting fucking back legs in the world of weightlifting. And the guy was an absolute fucking animal and took home hardware for days and years. Okay, and like, cool. Like his overhead position was great. His dip and drive was fantastic. Front leg, 90 degree. Back leg was absolutely horrid. But like, you know, he did it all the time. So it's clearly a technique. And he didn't have injury because he trained almost fucking weightlifting meets every 3 months. So at world-class level, I'm gonna give it to him. The back leg is spiked into the ground. So what we mean is that angle. This is super important if you're a beginner. Like a lot of beginners will try to go flat-footed. I don't know why. I never had that issue. I think it's just like a grounding thing, but you'll rupture your Achilles eventually. That Achilles and soleus, like they're not made to load that weight, and you put it under massive stretch when you try to do that. So if you want to look like Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, you can go ahead and try that, but I don't advise it. That back leg is kind of like your rudder. You use it to control your balance, so you want it pliable and movable. So that little spike allows you to quickly adjust it. Who saw Olivia Reeves snatch, where she used her back foot to kind of spike it and save her? Beautiful example of what a jerk back leg can be. Athletes should have feet in a hip width stance or around the area of the base. This is also something to adjust with the athlete, where their landing position is. Generally, when I'm teaching beginners, I tell them stay on your skis or your water skis. When I'm coaching athletes from like fucking Iowa that I've never, seen like, I don't know, water or big bodies of water or a desert that I've never seen snow. It's a little bit harder to have that discussion, but like generally under your hips is where you want to remain with your base. Going too wide makes you imbalanced. Going too narrow makes you a tightrope walker, and you'll drift left and right. And then guys, again, athlete never stops applying upward and back pressure. I keep repeating that, huh? Fucking crazy. All right, Candace, or is that you?
You bring us covered. Well, like when you watch a lot of these with the back, when it comes to the back leg, like if you're watching, if everyone's watching the video, it's like that's a non-negotiable in the sport. Is that leg is that like, you can see Ilya Ilya.
Yeah, it's always done.
All time. Shittiest jerker of all time, but he's just so strong, and his back leg, your Canadian, it looks straight. It's not straight. There is that has to be there.
Yeah, it's an absorption tool. Who else?
It was mine.
Yes. What was it?
It was about the back leg.
Okay. Do we have a question over here?
No, Brandon's just hopped off.
Must receive force.
He's driving down soon, so he's gonna try to.
Oh, see you soon, Brayden. Drive safe. Drive better than Drew. Nothing. Brayden's driving, bro. All right. Bert.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I was wondering, is it possible to demonstrate that first slide with the dip, and drive start in the same position?
I agree.
With these
Oh.
screenshots, you're saying how the start of the drive, or like the start of the dip and the end of the drive are the same spot, it's not.
So here's the start.
Yeah. So basically, here's the, okay. So good question. I got you. Okay. So go back.
Yep.
So here's the start. Okay. Okay. So we have our dip, right? This is our position. We're back. Sorry, video people. We'll demonstrate this. Tracy, I'm frame by frame or something later. I'm trying to post. Okay, so we have our rack position, right? Here's our dip. So Richard, next slide. We dip. Okay. We go to the next one. All right. Now our drive. This is where we use our muscle. Okay. This is our drive. This is our drive. This is where all the muscle gets used, guys. This is our drive. After this portion right here where I'm staying mid-foot, this is all the point where I can be strong into the ground. All right, I've pushed, I've exploded right through this phase while all my points of contact are on the fucking ground. Does that make sense? All right, think about like, let's put in another lift, guys. Think about your tall snatch. Where do you guys make the most power? It's right through here, right? You fucking push. It's not while you're in the tiptoe. Does that make sense? It's not even when you're in the ball of the foot. It's through that initial push. Does that make sense? So this in a jerk, we dipped, we drive, we squeezed all our muscles, and now we've started to push down on that last little second, at the millisecond of that. That's just you starting to push down. Does that make sense? So like, you obviously you're gonna go like a hair above it, but you're no longer actually driving into it. That upward force is just arbitrary float, if you will. You only drop. So you're here, boom, down, under. That makes sense? Is that better? You want to utilize your legs in the time you're in your legs, and you can remain in it. Cool. So guys, and again, another view, read the stuff on the left on your own. Just a side view showing that stack. Showing the receiving and the split. Yeah, I'm going to read the bottom portion because there's some wording in there. Okay, a lot of elastic energy and timing components must be practiced and for timing purposes to time it right, and also gain the ability to maintain posture and rigidity through fatigue and training stress. Right? That first part, a lot of elastic energy and timing components. This is again where coaches sit there and we tell you guys, practice, practice, practice. Train at your fucking 70% like it's your 100%. We say it till we're blue in the fucking face for a reason. Because it's rhythm and timing, rhythm and timing. Okay? Empty barbell. Train your empty bar like it's your max. You're building a rhythm into your lifting. So it comes out when it needed most. All right, when it's needed most. That's going to help you when you get to those heavy loads and your fatigue, because then it can become autonomous. That rhythm is beat into you. If you sit there and you guys are sitting there and half-assing, you're fucking 70%. I'm gonna sound like a dick, and I'm gonna be a dick, I'm sorry. But like, you guys fucking sit there and you think all day about, oh, we have our 95% today. I gotta hit my 95%. I gotta fucking hit my 95%. All right, I get into my gym. I'm gonna fucking build to my 95%. Okay, do my 70. I do my 75 now. Now I'm gonna do my 80. I'm gonna do my 85. Cool, do my 85, do my 89. All right, now we're 90. Now I gotta do my 95%. Fuck, I missed it. You missed the fucking point. You just made it a game of how fast can you climb the fucking mountain, and you missed all the fucking development and all the rhythm and timing and focus of all the lifts building into the training. So you didn't have any shit fucking focus leading to the actual lift at the top. You didn't practice anything, so of course you didn't fucking have speed and timing and rhythm at the top, because you didn't have fucking any focus on it in the goddamn sets in the beginning. And again, sorry if I sound like a dick, but it's just fucking facts. It's like, anyone play fucking track? Raise your hand if you played track. You did track, sorry, played track, just fucking sounds silly. Who sprinted? Candace, how many times did you sprint slow? Candace, would you ever think to sprint slow? Fucking stupid. Right? Anyone play baseball? Okay, Elise? What position? Jesus fuck, Elise. Fucking God. Remote athlete, she said bench. So there you go.
I think Tony played maybe too.
Anyways, we'll move on. Thank you, Elise. Tony played hockey, okay? Tony played hockey. Those of you that don't know Tony, the fucking grumpy dwarf over here. Okay, Tony played hockey. If Tony went on the fucking ice, lackadaisical, and someone fucking hit him, he's gonna get fucking sacked. He's gonna get hurt. Right? He's not paying the fuck attention. If Tony took the puck to the fucking net and then follow through on a fucking shot, even when practicing, he's not gonna do it when he goes on for a game to actually put some ass behind the puck so that way the goalie blocks it. He trains half-assed. He's never gonna fucking make good shots. They're all gonna get blocked. Is that fair to say? You guys, this is one of those stupid fucking things that will make you a better lifter. You put the fucking steel in your hand, just move fast. I don't give a flying fuck what you do, right? And like Ivan Rojas is one of the fucking meanest coaches in the world. He is an asshole. That man walked out on me in a training session before and did not come back for 6 hours. Okay? That's how shitty I was doing. One of the things he said though is like, I don't give a fuck if in your rest sets, you literally dance the fucking calypso. But when you put the fucking steel in your hand, you're serious. And then you sit and go do whatever the fuck you want for that 2-minute iteration. But you put the fucking steel in your hands, you get serious. And it's that simple. It's not a hard request either on your body. Have fun, and for fucking 9 seconds, be real. And then go fuck off again. And you will literally train better just doing that.
Yeah, Holly says you don't learn technique at your 90%, you learn at your 70.
Bingo. Holly said you don't learn technique at your 90%, you learn it at your 70 and 80%. Next slide. Rant done. Okay, questions so far? Raise your hand if you learned anything. Thank you. Excellent. Cool. Let's go into this part. Okay, the split jerk, negative effects on jerks, why they occur, and how they remedy. All right, so we're going to push through. Tracy's going to be hitting these slides pretty quick.
Oh, because you talk too much for the first 20?
No, we just don't need to fucking bounce.
All right, next slide. All right, guys, so we're gonna go over some videos here with some common errors that we typically see for the jerk. The first one here, this is gonna be the V dip and drive. All right, now there's 2 possible V directions that this can go. The bar can V forward or the bar can V back. And this is all a result of the athlete's balance in the foot and their tension. So typically what we see when the bar V's forward is we see the athlete shift the weight to the front of the foot. When we see the bar V'ing back, it's because the athlete has actually maintained balance in the foot, but they have shifted knees and hips forward, and now their shoulders are back relative to their lower half, okay? So this body angle, as I'm going to drive, is going to cause me to separate backward from the bar. With either V, the bar is going to be left out in front. So we're going to watch this video of, this was one of our athletes. She's a CrossFitter who trained remotely. She had a pause and dip program here. So we're going to watch this a couple times in real speed. You guys are going to try and pick up as much as you can from it, and then we're going to slow it down and kind of go over what's happening a little bit here. All right, so if we go into, let's pause this video right at the bottom of her dip. So she's going to pause and dip, or we can go just slow motion it if you can. Take this down to slow motion. All right, so CrossFitters in general tend to be pretty quad dominant. They love to drive from the front of the foot. All right, so even though she's coming down into her dip and she's in a pretty good stacked position here, right before she goes to drive, she shifts all the weight forward to the front of the foot. And now her momentum and the momentum of the bar is going to pull her forward. So we're going to pause this video in her receiving position here. So I want you guys to look at her receiving position. You guys might say, oh, no big deal. She still made the jerk. Okay. But let's look at a couple things. Is the bar stacked? Bar stacked? No, we can't see her ears. The bar is not stacked over her center of gravity. Her back leg is super straight because her weight is shifted forward here. Her low back is very, very arched. Okay. Because the weight is not stacked, on her weight is front loaded. She's now creating a ton of stress on her spine. She hasn't kept tension through the front of her body. And this rep she was able to make because the weight's not aggressively heavy, but under a certain weight, she's going to lose that forward every time. So if you guys look at some of the discussion points here, another thing that you might notice is that as she goes to drive, her rack position changes ever so slightly. So you're going to see her elbows drop a hair and her shoulders roll forward. This could be a result of her just getting shifted to the front of the foot, or it could be a result, which we see in some athletes, particularly CrossFitters or people with stronger upper body. They're trying to put themselves in a more advantageous position to shove with their upper body out of the dip rather than relying on their legs. Remember, the bar is still just resting on our body. Our arms are keeping it in place, but the arms are really doing nothing to elevate the bar, right? They are pushing us underneath the bar. They're involved in the follow through. So this is not a good way to get into a leg dominant drive. Any questions on that? We see a lot of you guys with either this or the V back. Raise your hand if you guys do the V back variant, where you throw your shoulders back at the top and you push the bar out in front. I should see some hands because I've seen a bunch of you. Okay, good. All right. All right, next slide.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you cue core stability? Because if you see that core is doing some wild things.
It is doing some wild things, but
So I will, just to interject, that woman has a stronger core than anyone in this fucking gym.
Yeah.
She literally travels the globe teaching yoga and Pilates.
So like if you stack your core, it's just an
so
activation
you
of
could
the
you
core
could you could
muscle
cue it a little bit differently. You could also tell her, because her core is strong, but she's really not in control of the balance in her foot. So it's more so she's letting the weight shift her forward subconsciously. If I told her, I need you to brace tighter and sit back towards your heels more, I need you to stack your I need you to stack your ass over your heels. You know, she would do a better job of staying tight and stacking everything. So she's tight for a second, because you can see as she comes down into her dip, she's actually in a good position when she pauses, right? But then that's only for a split second. As soon as she goes to drive, she's trying to drive from the front of the foot. She's letting the weight pull her forward, right? So even if her core is tight, sometimes that's just a quad dominant person or a person who doesn't know how to use their legs very well, just driving from the front of the foot, right? So
Yeah, Amanda like sneezing. Her abs are tighter than like Burke's grinding through that 240 we all saw. Like that's how fucking strong that woman's abs were.
She's a
all
cool
right,
chick.
so this one is called the short split. We're gonna use, guys, just a heads up, we have a couple of our athletes in this video, okay? We love you guys to death, but some of these videos where you guys are learning and kind of making mistakes that we've been ironing out and cueing you on is a really good way for you to see some of these errors that are going on. So this one is Elise, okay? There's a short split.
They've
All
all
right,
been.
so
warned.
the dip and the drive aside, even when an athlete has a pretty decent stack position at the bottom of the dip, we're gonna watch this video really quick. We're gonna watch where she's landing. Okay. Watch it one more time in real speed. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna pause the video in her catch position. Okay, so we can look at where she's receiving the bar. All right, so from here, we can see that that front foot did not step out far enough. As coaches, what we're looking at is we want to see that knee stacked over the ankle. So the front foot should be stepping out far enough to where the knee is stacked over the ankle and not pushing forward past the ankle. When the knee starts pushing forward past the ankle, you're putting a ton of stress on the knees. You're no longer balanced between both legs. You're definitely front loaded, okay? The front leg has to step out far enough to allow the athlete to be stacked and balanced if they're gonna maintain any amount of load overhead, right? So there's a couple reasons why this short split can happen, all right? If the athlete is falling forward, right? So we talked about the V dip. If you guys are losing your balance forward, if you're letting the weight pull you into the front of the foot, if you're falling into your split, your front leg will get stopped short. It will not be able to move out the appropriate amount of distance, okay? The other thing that we see from athletes is they are driving, especially newer athletes, when they go to drive into their split, they're being super aggressive, trying to move their legs, and they are being more aggressive with their back leg. Faster, more powerful, more efficient with the back leg, which means their torso starts shifting forward and that front leg is slower. The front leg's either slower or stepping out higher off the floor, so it's taking too much time to get into position. So a cue that I've used with athletes before that has helped with this is I tell them to focus on their foot, all right? A lot of times when athletes go into their split, they're thinking more about their legs. They're thinking about their legs as a whole, okay? I gotta get my legs out into this position. If you think about focusing on that foot specifically, I have to step the foot out far enough to make sure that I'm getting into a deep enough split and I'm evenly balanced in my load, right? So we could give her, and we have given her, like pause and dip work to focus on that, right? So she can sit there for a second at the bottom of the dip, make sure I'm not shifting forward, really focus on what I'm doing with the front leg. Coach Matt made a remark about how your back leg in your split is your rudder. So your front leg in your split is your brake, all right? It's like the brake on your car. It's gonna stop you and the barbell back here over your center of gravity so you can maintain a balanced receiving position. If the brake isn't used efficiently, or it's not punched into the right position aggressively enough, your body, the momentum of your body and the weight of the bar, everything's just gonna continue to shift forward. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions on that? No? All right. Next slide. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this.
Preface.
Yeah.
Preface.
There's a lot going on in this video. There's a CrossFit athlete who was working with us on some of his jerks. This is a power jerk, okay? So we're gonna watch this a couple times in real time. I'm gonna ask you guys what the first thing that you pick up, because there are a few errors going on. So we're gonna ask you guys, what is the first thing that you're picking up here? All right, when you watch the video. Watch it one more time. There's kind of a critical error that occurs initially that sets up the whole rest of the lift, and then other things spiral from there. Anything you guys notice? Yes, bingo. Okay, so the first thing that happens here is his toes lift off the floor. As he goes into his dip, he's dropping down into his dip and he's very off balance. Because he's off balance, he gets no power in his drive. Okay, he's created this rocking mechanism as he starts to load. So he hits the bottom of his dip. He has very slow transition up into the drive, so the drive is not aggressive enough. And as a result of this, he gets to the top of his drive and he's a lot slower now to start pushing down under the barbell. He's basically just trying to heave himself under this weight because he's realized he has not gotten enough power in the drive. So his ability to push down against the weight and secure a good lockout is now compromised, okay? But as you noticed, it all started with something as minute as the balance in his feet. That's why we tell you guys, we see your toes lifting up as you dip. We see you rocking it all before you go into your dip. You are creating a rocking mechanism. You're not balanced to load, okay? So you need to screw your feet into the floor. You need to keep everything flat. If you are in control of your body and the balance in your feet, you are much more apt to be in control of your barbell. All right. But the timing aspect that we were talking about before, guys, in terms of jerk being a violent drive up into a violent drive down. All right. You only have a certain window of time to start pushing yourself down under the barbell. If your drive is slower or off balance, you're much more likely to get to the top of that drive and completely miss that window of when you need to start pushing down under the weight. So your timing is going to be super compromised. Any questions? No? That's good. Okay. No follow through. This is something that we are yelling at you guys about all the time in here, the follow through aspect. All right. This is Jenny Arthur. We're going to play this video of, this is her third clean and jerk. So it's a heavier lift from her. And for her, when we watch this video, she has a solid dip and drive and just leaves the bar out in front, right? So there's really no follow through from her upper body down into the bar to shove herself down into a good receiving position. For her, this was more of a fatigue thing than a technical error, right? The dip and drive was solid. Things look technically good, but she's obviously pushing under heavy weight and with fatigue. So as you see, she starts shoving the bar up, but then she doesn't continue to follow through up and back against the barbell to secure her lockout. Right? So the follow through, guys, when we talk about follow through, the ability to push yourself down under the weight into a stacked position is an upward and backward motion. Some of you guys get caught up in this driving the weight off of you, driving yourself down under it, and you are not actively squeezing back against the barbell. So remember, the bar has to traverse from the front of your body to being stacked behind your ears, all right? So the trajectory of tension from your upper back, from your lats, from your shoulders has to be always up and back as you're pushing down against it. If it's straight up, or we lose that up and back follow through completely, AKA running all the way through the finish line, we won't be stacked under the weight. There is a discussion point number 2 down here that's kind of interesting, if you guys will read. Sometimes athletes are over focused on what their hands and their arms are doing, okay, to go through the follow through itself. We want you guys to focus on the shoulders and the upper back and the lats, okay? Because it's this joint here and the tension that is created around this joint that allows you to put the pressure on the barbell that's going to squeeze it back, right? If you're focusing on, okay, my hands, my grip is good, I'm gonna start pushing through the barbell with my arms, but then forgetting the fact that it's, again, the tension in the back and the lats and the shoulders that are gonna create that trajectory, create the tension to stack the barbell and the follow through, then you're focusing on the wrong piece, basically. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? No?
That also, guys, like off the record, like that was a PR attempt for Jen. Like, just fucking tired, man. And like, I think that is discussion point in itself is like, you can beat yourself up like all day. Like sometimes you're just fucking tired.
Mhm.
It happens. I don't know if you know, but like this shit's hard. It's like it happens. Callie said the joint where?
The shoulder joint.
Shoulder joint.
Yep.
Callie. Everyone say hi, Callie.
Hi, Callie.
So like people trying to diagnose their looks at home, like would you want to just say like don't actually like if they see like oh I'm Ving, I'm not doing the follow through stuff, but it's like they have to focus
Yeah, you guys have to focus on fundamental errors first, right? So if you're training remotely and you're watching your video and you see that, oh man, my toes came up, I was rocking in my dip, or oh my God, I got pulled forward at the bottom of my dip. It doesn't matter. Your follow through doesn't matter. If you didn't maintain balance on the feet, you didn't maintain tension or good stacking or a good rack position, the follow through doesn't even come into play. When all of those other fundamental pieces are in place, like with Jenny, you could see again, good stack, good dip, good drive. She was just fatigued. She just left the bar out in front. So if you can watch your video and see that all the other pieces are good, but man, I missed the bar forward, then typically that is a follow through issue, right? If you're leaving the bar out in front, but you haven't shifted your weight, you haven't lost tension, all that good stuff. That makes sense? So the foundational pieces have to be in place first. Oh yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so the last video here, there's a couple things going on in this video. This is one of Abi's old videos, okay, that he sent us from his college training days. All right, the follow through is a byproduct of another issue that's happening in this drive. Okay, so we'll play the video. We'll watch it.
Tracy's gonna talk about what we actually wanted.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough time to get the video of what we actually wanted, because I think he just angrily deletes his film once we.
He deletes the videos
He
all the
has
time.
literally the flaw I want perfectly,
Yeah,
but I think he angrily deletes them once.
yeah.
Burks, you can take the heat back up, take it up to like, I blasted it like all night for you guys, so it's just, I needed the speaker for them to be able to hear us.
All right, so we're gonna watch this video. So, and again, follow through isn't really the issue here. He sent it to us and he's missing the lift forward, obviously, but watch this again, guys, and see if you can figure out what the issue is. Anyone see what's happening? Yeah, Avi struggles maintaining mid back tension, but there's something a little bit worse that's going on that's not as, yeah, the feet, okay?
Always watch your feet first, guys.
Okay, so.
Bethany, the feet and
the
heels.
interesting thing about this, guys, is if
Winner,
you
winner,
watch
Bethany.
this- Yes, there you go. If you watch this video, you're gonna see actually in the dip, he's coming down and he's flat-footed. So he's in a good position in the dip. He's tight, he's stacked, he's flat. The second he goes to drive, he lifts his heels, right? The second he goes to drive, he lets the weight shift him, the heels come up. So we're no longer balanced, we're no longer getting any drive from the leg. We've allowed the bar to displace us forward, all of that. So again, at that point, the follow through does not matter. You didn't even complete the dip and drive. So.
Awesome. Any questions for Coach Tracy, guys? General question.
So in building up to the jerk, you do a lot of push press. Can you talk about how you should push press to build success?
Why is push press a good accessory for jerks? Yeah.
Well, because I did a million.
Yeah. So,
Well, okay, so.
so how many of you guys execute the dip and drive for your push press the exact same as your jerk? And how many of you guys change up the mechanics because it's a push press versus a jerk?
That's actually my day one year. I was working with 8 turn number. But that's what literally is key for me with jerks. Drive it like 8 push press.
Yeah. So the movement mechanics of the push press are the exact same for the jerk, right? So the dip, the drive, the shove, and follow through against the barbell are the exact same. The only thing that's not happening is you don't get to shove under the bar. You have to follow through by pressing out overhead, right? So if you have a tendency to let the bar go around your head, if he's trying to build more upper body tension in the actual shove part, or if he's just trying to reinforce the mechanics of the dip and the drive and a nice tight bar path through here without putting a lot of weight on you, we actually have to force the upper body to now finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the push presses because I knew you getting stronger.
Tendency though is to over. What you're talking about the. drive.
Nope, but you're still flat.
I know, but I'm saying.
He's talking about on the push
In a
press.
push press, I feel like.
Yeah.
Tendency.
Yeah, I'm not using.
To overdo that.
Yes, people do on the push press, and that's fine, that's fine. That's where you have to be a good coach. And you have to make sure you're teaching the athlete, like it's a different move. For push press for you, I was giving you push press for that reason of I couldn't give you a million jerks. So the push press was basically to teach you that dip, drive, and follow through, that following through action, and that continual pressure into the bar for when we went to jerk. It had nothing to do after this, besides keep pressing and resisting.
Yeah, but when you teach beginners, 100%, you're right. Basically, the athlete will continue to like drive on their feet and press. It's like, no, that's not what we want. Think of it in this way. The
And-
push press was like, it's a tool for this thing. We're just using a component of the push press motor.
And you could take the same, the logic and apply it to a muscle snatch, right? So if we gave a beginner a muscle snatch, after telling him for so long, you get to here, you pull under, you get to here, you pull under. Now I'm telling you to get to here and keep elongating and press out. So it's just a tool to work on a specific segment of that.
All right, guys, we're gonna try to get somewhere back on time, but obviously, like I said, we're gonna bounce over because I talked a little bit more, but that's just, what I like to do. I like to teach. All right, we're gonna go over the mechanics of the setup. It's gonna break down on appropriate setup. The setup mechanics we're gonna discuss, all right, are going to be a baseline mechanic setup. The setup is different for the snatch and the clean, yes. We are going to just talk about setup mechanics. They adjust for snatch and clean, yes. So when we talk about it, we're looking at angles, we're looking at concepts and theories. The variants we'll kind of touch base on, but we're not going in depth on the snatch, we're not going in depth on the clean. And you'll understand what I mean by that as we continue forward. The key pieces of both of them, follow along for both of them. And you'll get more what I'm saying as we go along. As we move forward into this, all right, and my fucking sarcasm, I clearly have up on that. Does anybody feel like after the split jerk section, like we have a little bit better understanding of the mechanics of the jerk? We're not just like, I go down and I go up and I go down. All right. All right, so lifting, guys, weightlifting, grab and go. Best fucking idea ever, right? Yes.
I don't know, man. I saw some pretty heavy lifts come out of West Barnett.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that was his whole thought process. All right. Grab and go is where everyone starts. Don't worry. There are some videos of me, if you've ever fucking seen them on the internet, doing some real ugly lifting. There are videos of me in a gas mask doing lifting, and they are fucking terrible if you've ever seen those. Because in the Army, you just do everything done. All right. The foundational notion of grabbing a barbell and just trying really hard is where most of us start and literally ingrains the first of many bad habits, unfortunately. All right? Humans are creatures of habit, and while this is one of our strongest traits, along with the abilities to adapt and imitate, these three together can become very counterproductive quickly. All right? Our ability to imitate is actually probably one of the greatest things about being in a gym that we can use to our strongest ability. Because, like, for example, Bree started following along with Jess in the garage. Where'd she go? Hiding. Okay. So Brianna would go out in the garage and she just follow along with Jess. And that's how it all began, guys. Like, I'm not even making it up. It was that organic. She would watch Jess busting her ass out there in training, and she would get a little bar. And Jess, do you even remember like the first time she came out? What did she lift? She started, that's an older sister, guys. She goes, she couldn't lift a training bar. That's an older sister right there. All right, look at subtle flex. All right, she imitated. She imitated and then she kept imitating. It's a really cool ability. All right, we are unfortunately cockroaches, right? That is what humans are. All right, so, but that problem is also we can imitate bad shit real quickly. And then it gets ingrained. We're very good at ingraining patterns. All right, the start or setup of each lift usually constitutes how the lift will end and should not be overlooked and taken with a grain of salt. Just like I kind of sounded like an asshole earlier, this is where Coach Tracy can sound like an asshole, and I'll let her take the reins all day in the gym, right? And I will also sound like an asshole in backer, is a lot of you guys do not pay attention. And again, not you guys 4-star, but athletes in general.
No, you guys 4-star.
You do not take your time in your setup to get taught and pay attention to your setup. So you're in perfect, ideal setup at any percent. Fuck your 100%. Sometimes you aren't even paying attention at your barbell. And it makes for bad training or inconsistent training. All right, this is the only opportunity for you or your athlete to get the pieces set up for optimal performance. Nothing's moving. You are literally in control. But this is even worse if you're a fucking control freak.
I'm not gonna make anyone raise hands, but if you're a fucking control freak, you're not optimizing this time. You're doing yourself in. All right? Take your time. Next slide. Find your lack of proper positioning disturbing. I had to put at least one Star Wars quote in here, modify it, so I wasn't mad. All right? Alexander Lukashev was a famous weightlifter, then turned Soviet coach, as many of them had that train. Okay? Technique and training are the same thing. All right? His quote obviously there. Very simple quote to remember and think on. Layla, does that quote make sense to you as our youngest person attending today? Do I need to even ask what that means? Pretty simple, right? Okay. Okay. We will start to refer to things a little bit differently here, guys, in the gym. Also throughout the slide, I might word things differently, but the way to really think about on a text level is that lifts are more referred to in the 201, 301, 401 higher level thinking, all right, throughout most of the world, minus the US. Smile. As a pull with an explosion. It is rarely referred to as first pull, second pull, third pull outside of the United States. Right? It is a pull with a squat under, or pull with explosion and squat under. To me, it makes more fucking sense, right? You kind of really think about it. The pull with squat under consists of the following parts when looked at as a whole. There's the starting position, the lift up to the squat under, and the recovery. Each of these have their own focused task going on. The lift off, all right, or the starting position, is the first one and most important. One characterizes the starting position as the angles between the links of the athlete's kinematic chain, the posture. So if we're telling you your posture is shit, that's what we mean. As well as between the lifter's arms and the bar, the width of the grip, how you're setting your hands on the bar, because it matters, and the position of the feet, the area of the support and its disposition, how you're balancing and throwing your balance in that setup, because it also matters. So we have, go back real quick. So we have literally your body's positioning, we have your width and where your hands are, and we have where your feet and where your balance is. Raise your hand if coach has ever talked to you about those things. Swear to God, if all of you don't raise your fucking hands, I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay? Next. This is how literally Robot Tracy, Robot Matt, and soon to be Robot Richard all look at you. They don't look at you guys and are like, oh my God, look at Soap's new fucking shirt. It's so fire. We literally look at you and are like, her fucking back doesn't look like the goddamn line diagram. She looks like a fucking turtle. I hate it. All right, we're looking for lines, guys. We literally are trying to draw lines in our head on your body. That's how we're looking. Richard, as an intern right now, a few weeks ago, we went over. When he's looking as a coach, we're either looking at the body or we're looking at the bar path. We're looking at the body or we're looking at the bar. That's how I'm teaching them. How I taught Tracy, that's how I teach all my coaches. Make a decision when the athlete's setting up to watch. So if you're watching the body, this is what we're looking at. The lines between the joints. This is for the snatch, this is for the clean, even for the jerk, all right? There are tension points between all these joints. So if you look, we can clearly see the shoulder, right? Does anybody not know what's going on here? We all understand this thing, human facing that away? Okay. So up top, Richard used the mouse. We have our shoulder, and then we have our hip. That should be taught. Okay. It should not be overarched. That will hurt you. Okay. What happens a lot of times is we overarch, we hurt our backs. All right. It needs to be tight. And it also needs to not be loose because that will hurt you. Also, the bar will win off the floor. It won't come back with you. You won't be in control. Then we have our angle between B and A, our hip and our knee. This is our big muscle group. We want this to be in the right position. And at different angles, it works better or less. All right? Those legs work better between different degrees based on your height as a lifter. Okay. Our angle of the shoulder, and then we have the hanging P, which is the bar, that fulcrum angle also matters, because if we go down all the way to where PA1 and all those lines in the bottom, that's our sweep in. The bar drifts in, we make it drift in. And at different positions on the body, right? We can see off the floor, we can see mid-shin, see below the knee, right? These common positions, it comes in at different angles. And the body's position is different at different angles, which means there are different tensions at different angles. All these things matter. That's why we are so damn critical on you guys. That's why when we sit here and we're like, hey, Tom, below the knee man, we got to get a little lower in that setup. Or hey, Bree, your fucking low position, I want that bar just half an inch in. Because if we were off the floor, we'd be half an inch forward. We've already brought it in a little bit, right? That's why, like, for example, Logan, I gave him low snatches because Burks, you train with Logan every day. Logie, for a long time, off the floor was just getting pulled the fuck forward, right? So we needed to make him understand, bring that shit back. So I just had him do segmented low. He had to come off 1 inch off the ground and hang the fuck out. And it chewed him the fuck alive for 3 weeks. And you would watch Logan hit like a 70% and start cursing me out. Fucking stupid fucking movement. Right? Like, yeah, well, fucking stop being a stupid lifter, be in control more. Like, it's just like, well, it fixed it. It fixed it. He understood what he had to do, and then it started bleeding into his lifting. That's why we do these things, and that's why we're so critical of movement. Why you guys need to be. Question.
Okay, it's all multi-part.
Yeah.
So we have little dots representing the shoulder, the hip, and the knee, and the ankle.
Mhm.
But obviously, like on a human being, those are thicker. So what are we talking about for each of those? Are we actually talking about like the middle of the shoulder, the middle of the hip, the middle of the?
Yeah, this would be the middle.
Okay.
This would be the dead center of the joints.
Like the butt would be.
Kenny, is there a fancy name for the dead center where the joint rotates? That's what it's called. I know there was some fucking fancy Latin name that Tracy couldn't be fancy and learn how to spell. Tracy loves spelling, so if it's like Lentubius axillarius, and she'd be like, oh my God, I can learn how to spell it, guys. All right, next slide. Okay, differences between heights and bodies, guys, will determine differences in start positions. Again, athletes of shorter height will have larger knee angles. All right, so what does that mean? So an athlete with a shorter, like a shorter stature, their knee angle is going to be higher. They're not going to like dunk, right? So in certain lifts, they're going to have higher hip positions than others. Right, shorter athletes therefore communicate speed to the barbell with the muscles that straighten their torso. So like Logan, for example, all right, his hamstrings are going to be utilized a lot more than Burks or me to keep upright and straight when he's recovering that lift out of a clean. We're going to use different muscles than him, right? Athletes of taller height have shorter knee angles, generally. All right, taller athletes are able to speed up the bar in the first phase primarily with thigh extensors. So like Kenny's a little bit taller than me. Thigh extensors should be firing off a lot more in that first initial liftoff phase than like Logan's using on his lift. It's just how the human body, how anatomy is going to work. Right? And that's up to your coaches. Tracy and me do not expect you guys to know this shit. Don't get it twisted. We're not fucking expecting you guys to understand this. What we want you to understand, all right, and anyone that watches this moving forward from any other gym or whatever, is you guys need to understand your coach may or may not understand this. You need to work with them to learn and understand this. Or if your athlete or your coach is saying, hey, I really need you to understand in your setup, or Candace, I have you taking segmented 1 inch off the ground. I really need you to pump through your quads to this position. Feel your quads pushing. That's because I'm trying to blank X this position. I'm trying to make you feel that muscle more, or that group more. Or, you know, Kenny, the thigh extensor thing, you're taller. We want to feel it more here. Like, there's reasons to the movement. Programming, and me and Richard just talked about this, programming should not be just like ball of shit, throw it at the wall, see if it fucking sticks,
All right, we did it. It shouldn't be that. I'm sorry. It should be more in-depth thought. Okay. Next slide. We have two athletes here. Same fucking size, right, guys? Same size.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. Nope, go back. Okay. Athlete on the right. Tatiana Katarina. In my opinion, me and Tracy fight out. Tatiana Katarina is undoubtedly the most technically proficient, strongest female that ever existed in weightlifting as of date. Yes, she was fucking sauced up. That doesn't mean she wasn't the best technically. Because like all sauced up athletes, which I don't support, they'd still be the technically most fucking proficient. Welcome to weightlifting here. After this, somebody show Sally a meme page. Let's get her in. Let's get her in the circle of trust. There we go. We hit it. Steroids.
Oh my God.
Okay. Now, what? That's her snatch setup.
That's her snatch setup, yeah. Yeah, you wanna.
Okay. Athlete on the left. Guess we forgot his name.
Yahweh.
What is it?
Yeah. Wait.
Yahweh. Okay, Yahweh. Smaller athlete.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. What?
Liao.
Yahweh.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. He's of the newer generation, man. I don't know any of the fucking newer lifters. I'm
He's an
old.
OG, bro.
I'm old. Like 2015, once Russia was banned, I was like, I hate weightlifting now. I stopped following. I've just recently started up again. So like different setup, right, guys? Different size athlete, different gender, and that's what this discussion is going to come into. It's like it's got to be set up for you. You have to work with your coach. All right? You guys all see the differences, right? Not same. Does anybody think they're in the same positions? Okay, next one. Okay, now just some side continued notes. Athletes with weak legs, for example, will try to create a large knee angle in the starting position. You want to voice on that. I won't bring it in if you don't want.
No, that's fine. So this is a big issue I have, guys. So we've been fighting about my setup and all, like, going back to the, we're not fighting.
Constructively debated.
Constructively debating and trying to fix it for a while because I have long legs and my legs are weaker relatively. So having a higher hip in my start position feels like a more secure position. When I drop my hip, I feel like I'm in a weaker position. I have a hard time feeling like I'm on top of the bar, yada yada. So basically, I'm chasing a feeling that I'm familiar with. But with a higher hip in your start position, you will have a larger knee angle. That also, if you guys can picture that in your head, puts you at a relatively weaker position to use your legs on the floor. You all agree with that, right? When your hip is lower, you are able to use your legs more. Now it has to be lower in relation to your. It has to be lower in relation to your setup, obviously. You still need shoulders on top of the bar, right? You can't just drop your hip and let your shoulders come behind the bar. But that higher hip does put you at somewhat of a disadvantage for using your legs, and you'll have a larger knee angle there. You guys can visualize that? Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, well, yeah. I can talk on the second part too. I forgot.
Well, I mean, I already kind of brushed over it.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So
That's why my low back is so overdeveloped, guys.
Tracy's gonna go over.
That's why I have bills on my low back because I
That's-
use that more than my legs.
Tracy's gonna quickly bounce over these.
Okay, guys, so these are some key points on what we're looking for from a good setup. All right, head position. We all know that we need our head forward, our gaze up slightly, right? We all know that we don't want to be looking down, and we don't want to have our head or our chin tilted down or even in neutral. Does anyone know why this is? Okay, the tension in your upper back is largely affected by where your head goes. Your head is 1/8 of your body weight. So when the chin starts tilting, or even if the head is in a neutral position, it makes it a lot harder to pack those muscles in the upper back and the scaps, especially when you now add load to it. That's why you'll see most lifters, they will have their head forward up like that. Does that make sense? Back, what do we notice about the back? It's straight line, right? We're not arched. Now, this looks different from lifter to lifter, but general principles are that the more neutral the spine is, the more tension that you will have created in your trunk. So you will lift off with tension and you won't be compromising your back. When the back is arched, guys, especially the low back, it's impossible to have tension through the front, through the low ab, right? So you're really compromising your spine. Shoulders. Shoulder blades are packed down and together, right? We don't see the shoulders rolling forward.
Typically, when we talk about position, we've been using armpits a lot more than shoulders to refer to where we want you starting in terms of on top of the bar. So if you look at her armpit, specifically, her armpit is on top of the bar here. All right, so we've been using that cue a lot more with you guys to set you up in the right position. Arms, the arms are taut. There's no slack, right? The arms are like ropes. There should be no bend, no slack off the floor. What do we notice about her elbows? Elbows are pointed out, right? You never want the pit of the elbows forward. The elbows are angled out to allow us to keep the bar tighter as we start passing the knee. Feet. Feet are where? Pointed out, right? Never in neutral. Why is this? Anyone know why we harp on this so much? Why we don't have a neutral stance? What's that? I can't hear you. Who's down here in the pit? Yeah? Speak up. So having the toes turned out allows us to keep the balance in the feet easier. It also allows us to have a tighter bar path. All right. So when we have our feet and hips in neutral, you're going to have the knees pushing forward more into the bar path. You're basically going to have further for that barbell to go, especially if you have longer shins, longer femurs, that kind of thing. So having the toes angled out takes those knees and it takes them slightly outside so that your bar path can be tighter. Our knees are angled over our feet, right? You see this sometimes in lifters, guys, where they'll have their feet set up in the right position, but when they go to push, they start splaying, so their knees start doing this. When your knees start traveling outside the area of base or the angle of your feet, you start splaying the balance in the feet, okay? So those lifters who love to splay now shift all of the weight to the outside edge of their feet. So they cut their power output, basically. You have muscle recruitment and you have power output when you're balanced in the middle of your foot. So if you guys are wearing an ice skate where the blade of the skate is, that's where the weight needs to stay. So if you're splaying the knees outside of the angle of the feet, you're losing your power output. Balance. Balance is mid-foot. Yep, that's an easy one. And tension. Obviously, we've created a lot of tension in the low ab. The back is tight. The arms are slack. There's no gap, no slack between you and your bar. Any questions? Pretty straightforward.
About hip position.
Yeah.
How strict do we want to be with hip position? I myself.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be too high. Like that is more of a rare thing. You'll typically see, like, especially with beginners, athletes who love to have their chin down or their gaze forward more like this. So your issue is more of something that we see less of. If the chin is too high though, it's going to set you up in a position to arch your back easier, right? So if your head is tilted way back, the angle of your neck to your body is going to set you up proprioceptively to just arch everything way more versus having it at a more of a normal angle like that's a little bit more normal, right?
Also, do you like want to talk about like people arching to create tension against the bar, like it starts to
Yes,
shift away
and
back?
that's something that I'm gonna go over on the next slide a little bit in terms of our setup and stuff. So common errors that we see that we've been harping on you guys about here: drifting and liftoff. All right, so the barbell rolls forward when we break the earth. This typically happens when you guys aren't paying attention to your setup, when you don't have your lats engaged and that bar squeezed into you properly. Early arm bend, okay, so when your elbows start bending immediately off the floor where you're trying to pull on the bar instead of just keeping the arms taut like ropes and using your legs. Hips shooting up, okay, stripper booty, where you guys are using your back, you're disconnecting from the earth instead of pushing through the earth, keeping the bar connected to you, moving with you. Shoulders getting put behind, all right, this is if you guys are not paying attention and you're just setting up in the wrong position, all right, so you're setting up with your hips too low, shoulders / armpits not on top of your bar, all right, so now the bar is going to roll forward or it's going to go around your knees as soon as you start to lift off because you are behind it in your setup. Balance shifts in the feet is a pretty common one. Even when you set up in the right position and you feel like you're tight, when you break the earth, either you lose some of the tension or you come off the floor too fast and the bar instantly pulls you to the front of the foot. So now you're forward right out of the gate. And then just a loose setup. This is something that I've been harping on a few of you guys with because there is slack between you and the barbell, okay? Now this can happen with the arms and it can happen, like Richard just mentioned, with the back. So sometimes we'll see athletes who like set in tight with their arms and they bring themselves down to the bar and they arch their back to get tight to the weight. When they lift off, the barbell is going to try and pull the slack from you. And it's going to start either with your spine or your arms, if there's any slack in your spine or your arms. Getting tight to your bar means that you are bracing. In powerlifting, they have this thing called a slack pull. right? So when powerlifters set up to deadlift, they do this kind of thing called a slack pull, where they set in, they pull themselves down into the steel, and they almost try and lift it up off the floor for a second. So they can feel the tension needed between them and the bar. I'm in the right position, all the slack is taken out, and then they go. So for some of you guys, when I'm harping on you about taking a second in your setup, stop moving, make sure you're in the right position, make sure the slack is taken out, and then go. This is why. All of these points here are why, because we see this issue when you guys don't. How many of you in here think that you deserve to have a dynamic start, that you should be moving in liftoff? There's,
Actually, rephrase it. How many dynamic start athletes do we have in Team 4-Star?
there really should only be one person in this room, Zach, who's able to do a dynamic start. The rest of you,
If he
who,
learns how to get his back,
yes,
which
okay.
we've been working on, then
Right,
we
which we've
can
been
do
working
it.
on. The rest of you guys, those of you who have this kind of hybrid of a dynamic start, where you come down to the bar, you're slowly moving, and then you lift off, you never come to a full stop and get in the right position before you lift off, you're fucking your lift offs. Okay, that's why I've been telling so many of you guys, stop moving. We're not doing this rolling start thing. We're gonna get into the right position, and statically, we're gonna drive from there. When you've been in the sport for years and you're actually in the right position every fucking rep, then you can start playing around with the dynamic start. It's the worst thing in the world to set yourself up for failure by being in the wrong position or having your lift off compromised, because a good start constitutes a good finish. Yes? Dynamic start is you're just way more powerful off the floor. So you have a boost of speed. You have an elastic reflex that helps you come off the floor faster. So then you can, in theory, build more speed. So under heavy weight, you're gonna have more speed through the middle. The bar will come up the floor with you faster.
Yeah, you just elicit more of a stretch reflex. So a lot of times beginners can get like a nice, if they can time it right, they get a nice learning curve jump, but it does not make you stronger. So what happens is they peak on it really fast. And then what happens is they're still weak. And they haven't actually worked their legs through the lift off. So they just fucking plateau. Because that first lift off of the knee is a lot of leg work that they just missed out on for fucking years.
And if you add a dynamic start to a bad position, you're actually gonna fuck up your timing and position exponentially worse. Yeah.
Balance shifts. I see a lot of my videos, one of my feet, like my feet are really moving, like as there's a balance shift on my feet, my toes are becoming. I'm wondering, is that a sign that maybe if I start with my toes?
No, your setup is fine. What's happening for you specifically is, so you're in the right position when you lift off. As you start lifting off, Yanni, you love to shift the weight too far back in the foot. Once the weight shifts that far back, your toes are now free to do this, okay? So your toes start moving back into whatever arbitrary position of comfort they want to go to, and then you come through again to find the balance and drive, okay? So the toes are just shifting because there's no longer any weight in them, and they're free to move. Okay, so now as you go to shift back and find the balance point and continue driving, that's just where they're ending up. So you're in the right position to start. I like where you're starting. We're having an issue in the liftoff, right? Keeping the balance. So your issue is kind of specific to you because you are tight and balanced in your liftoff, and it's after, as you start lifting off the floor, it's after liftoff that you start shifting back. So right through the knees is where that happens for you. Back to Matt.
Thank you, Coach. All right, guys, we're gonna grind through this part. This is actually kind of fun. There's a bunch of videos, so it should go quick. Anybody learn on anything on that last section? There's a little bit higher level, a bunch of bar line bullshit, shit like that. Kind of boring for some, maybe. All right. So another example of like that tension finding that Tracy was talking about. Like if you've ever watched my dumbass lift, I like yank on the bar first, and then I go. That's just like the thing I found that like I figured out how to get tension, because I used to early arm bend real hardcore. And that's like one of my coaches I worked with really early on. That's like just something we did and I've done since then. It drives Mercs insane. I know it does, but it works for me. So that's what I do. So it's whatever. Okay, bar pass, guys. We're gonna look at bar pass real quick. So raise your hand if you've like, raise your hand high so I can see it. Raise your hand if you've never seen an actual bar pass. This is like a totally new discussion for you. Okay, so everyone here knows the concept of bar path and bar trajectory. Bar paths are something that are higher level to think about. They are kind of a loaded gun concept, okay? Like a gun, if you're not trained on it, it is dangerous, okay? Like a gun, if you are trained on it, it's still fucking dangerous, okay? So treat it as such. Because you can sit there with 17 years of experience and start watching your bar path and start witch hunting and thinking shit's wrong or micromanaging it and shit like that, okay? So there's all these fancy bar path apps and everything. And I do not like, and I do not encourage any of you to ever download bar path apps. I think it's the worst thing athletes can do, all right? Even remote athletes, stay the fuck off them, all right? I think it's good to understand what a bar path should look like. I think it's good to be able to look at your film from a side and watch your bar. And I think it's very important to understand horizontal displacement, which we're going to talk. I think it's very good to understand the bar's path sweeping back to you. And that's about all I talk. And I think you should understand at a base level on bar path. All the other stuff should be coach conversation, or like if you're trying to become a coach or you're in college, some other higher level stuff. They're fun to watch though. They're cool to watch. And you can go real down the rabbit hole when it comes to like bar speed and velocity and all that cool shit. Right here, all right, when we talk, we have some just keynotes like all the lifters are facing that away, where Richard's pointing with the mouse. Okay, the green line is the bar path that's tracked. All right, then the white solid vertical line is the vertical bar path, or the vertical displacement line. This is, if me and Tracy say you're horizontally displacing, that is what we're talking about. This imaginary line that runs up through your midfoot. All right, or if you were standing like this, like a Vitruvian man, all right, we just sliced you in half, okay? That is the line we are talking about when we say, hey, Layla, you're 14, you should understand this. You're horizontally displacing when you hip your bar away from you. That's the line we don't want to cross by hitting the bar. Or when I say, Ryan, you're swinging the bar away from you on your clean, you're horizontally displacing. You should be able to, at the end of this class, be like, got it. That means I'm looping it away from me. I got to kill that. I got to tighten it up, all right? Because going across it kills momentum, kills speed, makes everything harder. You start fighting gravity on a whole different plane. Much, much harder. Got it? So these are just the 4 common bar paths that have been like followed on and tracked on for years and years and years. So we're just gonna talk on them. They're not anyone's in particular. All right, we didn't like sit here and look at like Liu Jiajun and Ilya Illins. All right, that's not like Tracy's on the right. All right, it's love it to be, but it's just the 4 common bar paths seen in our sport. All right, so next slide. What does it all mean, Basil? Probably none of you even know that line, but it's okay. All right, line A is most common. Most athletes with this style jump back due to strong legs and weak back muscles. All right, this was me many years. All right, until recently where I've actually started giving a fuck again in my training. All right, but it's still so. All right, basically the athlete has strong legs to drive through the floor. And then once we get to hip, so we basically have pulled, we've swept back. So this is what Tracy's talking about in that liftoff phase. We get to the hip, okay, and then we lean with our back. So the bar keeps coming back with us, but instead of going vertical, we displace our trunk and torso, so it loops backwards. Does that make sense? Yes? Yes. So we are jumping back effectively. We're leaning to finish the lift versus following through with our legs. So we are jumping back. Weak back muscle. Our back can't maintain the posture to stay on top of our bar in a good top position to finish vertically. So we get past our knees and we lean to heave our torso and body into the lift. Does that make sense? So it's also not necessarily maybe weak back muscles, but maybe postural tension or postural discipline is, I think, a better way to word it amongst beginners. You guys aren't all weak, right? Like, I'm not saying like Randy is weak. He just hasn't hung out in that position long enough. So when we sit there, again, and we say, hey, Matt, it's really important. Who's heard this one before? When you go to your mid-thigh position, you don't, here we go, 4-star, ready? Go to your hang position and fucking come to a stop. Raise your hand if you've heard us say that, guys. Raise them fucking tall and proud and high. It's again, because it's positional awareness. It's positional awareness. Your body memorizes it. All right? It memorizes, hey, this is where I should be. I need to get here when I go from the floor. All right? So it helps with this type of stuff. Line B, common. Athletes knock bar away from vertical plane from one of the following actions. They're going to go ahead and they're going to incorrectly set up positioning. So this is like Tracy was saying, their shoulders, they go ahead, they get tight with their shoulders, they kind of pack their lats, and they pull their shoulders behind that bar, or they're arching. Okay, so that bar kind of loops around and away from them, goes around their knees, out in front and back in swinging. Okay, does not bring bar in while breaking off the floor. Okay, so they can be shoulders over the bar, but they don't sweep back. So you guys can see that green line. Everyone understand? They're rolling away from the knee, rolling around. You see? Got it? Okay. That's, I mean, like, we're not picking it. That is a black and white of what we're working on with you. That way. They're all facing. Welcome to the conversation. Yes, we're here now. Yep. Yeah, that line A really fucked you up if you were thinking that it was facing the other way. I totally get it. I got you. Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, that would really fuck me up too. I got you. Let's try to imitate that today, Yanni. Oh my God. That's a guillotine pull. That's what we'll call that. All right, incorrect pull of shoulders back like Tracy was talking. All right, so now, sometimes on really heavy lifts at elite levels, you'll see that lift off in the beginning. And me, Richard, and Tracy have like a really cool, fucking crazy conversation on our coaches chat about like, they're fine. And don't go down the rabbit hole, kids. Should I even bring it up? I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring it up.
I don't know.
I'm gonna bring it up. Like, we already have a loaded gun. All right, I'm just putting another round in the revolver. Okay, we're seeing a lot of really elite level lifters because the fucking wild amounts of weight they're using, and they're having to use like body leverage to help and assist with these fucking pulls off the floor. We're seeing not this like big sexy lift off sweep off the floor. We're seeing a little bit more of this like roll forward, because like they're literally just getting pulled the fuck forward by the bar. And then they've got like counter lever it with their body. It's not like drastic, but it is when you put the tracker on it, kind of coming forward. And then they've got to work their ass off to bring it back. But it's just wild amounts of weight being lifted. So we had a cool discussion. That doesn't rationalize you guys. Like, Sally can't come to me and be like, I'm like lifting so much weight now that I'm not. Like, I can fucking go on my knees. Like, that's not valid. So that's where the discussion ends. All right, next slide. Too far. Oh, fucked up. You're fine.
My bad.
All right, line C, Novus Path. All right, line C is the Novus Path. Guys, this is the one we see. This is where everyone starts. Okay, very rarely do we not get something that starts here. All right, this is the hippie lifter, right? Who was there? Who was the hippie lifter? Who just fucking tried to make baby barbells, right? We just impregnated the fuck out of those things. All right. Common when athlete is unlearned on what explosion position should be. They feel like they do not wait until the end of the pull. Rather, they swing that hip to the bar and swing it forward. So that bar path, Richard, let's show them. They even sweep it in with them, like their liftoff is good. And then right when they get to that hip, man, it is glutes on, swing forward, slam that bitch forward, loop around, even like wide arm snatch grip, reverse curl style that shit. And they jump forward with it, receive it in front. Everyone see what we're talking about? Big forward displacement. That's that bar path right there. And like, again, you guys should be able to watch your film on the side and be like, definitely hipping my bar forward. This is inefficient.
Or you'll feel it on your pelvis.
Or you feel it on your hips, right? Yeah. You get nice bruises out. And then line D. Line D is the ideal bar path. Okay. So line D. Ideal bar path is swept in off the floor, stays close to the athlete. Through the explosion phase, the athlete pulls it upright as they pull down
displacing themselves under in a near vertical position, turning it over behind the athlete. Look at that hook, guys. That hook turns over and is finished behind the athlete. That is referred to in the weightlifting world as like the shepherd's hook. You guys are familiar with the shepherd's staff? All right. Some of you guys have what me and Tracy, and this is like where like this cycle of programming for the 4-star members, actually, the baseline was we had a lot of really good vertical extension. You guys, we were really unhappy with our turnovers, really unhappy with speed at the end of the pulls. Then we fixed that. You guys had a lot of speed. You guys had a lot of good positioning for the extension. But then we started having a lot of issues with the fucking turnovers. Like, damn, everyone's using their fucking legs. They're all using their legs now through the mid thigh, but like, we're just using our legs. Everyone's just going fucking straight up. We had no hooks going on. So that's where like the first 4 weeks, and we just like, everybody remember the first 4 weeks of the cycle? It was how many fucking triples or quads or such a 5 of snatch at thigh. Go, yeah, Tom, good times. Elise, you remember all those? Like we just turned the fuck over for 5-6 weeks to get that shit going on. All right, we just had to practice. It has to be turned over behind. But that vertical extension has to stay close and taut. And that, the note, guys, is that D section where that vertical bar path displacement is going to be different for every athlete. Okay, because like we have anatomical differences. All right, we have anatomical difference from gender to gender, right? Women have chest sizes that are different. Gentlemen, ladies, as humans, we have smaller athletes, bigger athletes, right? I'm not gonna sit there and look at Lasha and be like, bro, tighten that bar path up. That belly, like you gotta fucking get rid of it, your bar path, bro. Like, I'm gonna go fuck myself is what I'm gonna do. He could go around his belly because even on that, like that bar path is tight to his body. Chesty female, like obviously she needs to displace a little bit. It has to happen. When you're talking about like anatomical differences, like tight guys, like there's the French guy that lifted the other day in the 73s. Is it the 73s? We were talking that French dude, the lockout guy. Is that 70? 73s. Guy's jacked as fuck. Like he's so tight, man. Like might have bigger and tighter shoulder and bicep, tricep muscles than Tracy. Like, you know, his turnover, like he gets at this angle and he can't really internally rotate anymore. He's so fucking tight. So you're gonna see that bar path loop out a little bit. It's an anatomical difference. So he's doing the best he can. You're gonna have that type of shit. Question? Yes?
No, can you point, where those explosion positions is, you know?
Yep. So as that bar comes in, so Elise is asking where the explosion phase is. Basically right through here, that is where our explosion phase is going on. We make contact, we brush the bar in, and we're driving vertical. So the sweep in, that's the end of the sweep in. Next slide. Video time, guys. All right, so we're gonna watch some videos. This is gonna be like the cool, fun stuff, and then we'll be closing out. All right. I want discussion. Like, I want your guys' observations because this is where I think it starts to get a little bit interesting. So like, this is Naishi. This is a cool website if you guys want to watch some cool bar pass stuff. But these videos are pretty interesting, I think, because they have elite level lifters that you can watch their bar pass at competitions. Visually obvious, right? And you can see, as we watch that again, those like setup points that Coach Tracy was talking on. Like she's there, right? And like, yeah, she doesn't hunker down in the setup and take 7 seconds. That comes down to athlete. Tracy's been lifting a long time. She knows her setup.
Also, she can set up the same way at her 65% and she can at her 95%. She doesn't have to think about it anymore. It's automatic for her.
Okay, Ruslan was one of the top male Russian athletes, incredibly strong, high-level medalist, multiple time.
Fast fucking lift. 210. Tight bar path, right? Really easy vertical line drawn. Big dude. Weak back, yeah. Super weak back. Like the acceleration is just wild. It keeps going. But again, what did you say?
Sauced up.
Super sauce. But again, it's like, well, you guys, you know, observe the liftoff and stuff, but watch these other key positions that they hit. Like, look, flat feet, knees are through, armpits over the bar. And that's where you guys really need to take home is like, his fucking mid-thigh position is no different than Kenny's. No different than Soap's. The positions are no different than the elites, guys. And like, it's cool and sexy to watch all these top-level lifters and like watch them on the stages and all that shit. But like, if you guys want to lift like that, watch their training hall videos, watch their garage videos, watch their lifting that they just do like in their training hall at home. That's where you're gonna sit there and just watch like how they train regularly, and you'll actually come to notice that they lift the same as you. Their positions are the same as you. They're just stronger and more experienced, but hit their training positions the same. So smaller athlete from India, we see again, nice tight bar path, right? So with her, I think the thing that I like the most, this is a very traditional setup. It's a very, very textbook setup, right? The body proportions on this athlete are almost equidistant, like everything's equaled out, no long something, shoulders proportionally over the bar, hip to back ratio, all that stuff. And like that bottom position is like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful catch position. She plops right into the bottom, catches nice and flat. Okay, this video I thought was really cool. It's another video we had in Coach's Chat that I thought was really interesting. 2019 IWF Worlds. This is literally from left to right. This is gold, silver, bronze medalists. And all the bar paths are different for all three athletes. Okay, we're not going into any depth on how experienced they are, how long they've been lifting, anything like that. But observe the bar paths, they're all different. All the bar paths are different. Now, with that said, what common factors do we see, guys? Off the floor, what do we see? Bar being swept back, right? We generally see minus the lifter on the right. She kind of comes up and around a little bit, right? Up and around a little bit, then we see it coming back, all right? But then we see the bar come up. We see minimal horizontal displacement at the hip. We see a nice shepherd's hook of the bar turning over. Okay, this is just a cool video. Every now and then you're gonna get athletes that are super small, right? Like the Pocket Hercules, Heroes towards the end of his career, your smaller framed athletes. They will literally start to use, like I was talking earlier, they will start to use their body weight and have to start using their body weight to move the weight. And you'll start to see some wonky movement going on to cheat gravity effectively, all right? And with Sazie, she basically starts to kind of whip her spine into the motion. I'm not saying it's beautiful. I'm not saying it's good. Me and Tracy would immediately stop you guys because, like, A, I never want someone getting hurt. I would try everything in my power to not have an athlete do this in my gym. Everything in my power to almost the athlete, like, if they were like
I want to do this, I'd ask them to go find another coach. I'm comfortable with that because I don't want it on my conscience. But like, again, she's a fucking gold medalist. I respect it. Like, she's a good lifter. You guys see that upper back, right? She's literally whipping the frame of her body in to lift. And like, you know, me and Richard through the internship process have had discussions about like, you know, what defines technique? What defines just bullshit? Because people, you know, they're like, well, that's my technique. It's like, no, you're just fucking wrong. You just like, hate to say it, but like, it's not technique. You're just fucking right because you can't repeat that. If I ask you to do that 10 times in a row, you're not going to be able to do it 10 times. The technique has to be consistent. It has to have a purpose that drives to a higher goal because you need to see improved results with technique. Or why the fuck are you doing it? It doesn't make any sense. I have technique, yeah? How's that going for you? Well, you know, I keep getting diminishing results, so that's good. It's killer. So it has to have something that's adding benefit to you, and also you need to not get hurt with said technique. So she continues to get better. She's continued to climb the stage, and clearly there's less injuries because she's training at higher levels. Not my cup of tea. But were those bar path videos helpful? Seem like the elites do it? Good, good. All right. Okay, so we're gonna watch a few just bar path demonstrations, then we're done. We didn't run over that bad. We're good. It's only 15 after. It's good for me. All right. So we're gonna watch some old athletes. There are some of you in here that are in here. Sorry, not sorry. That is Coop. Yep. So this is one of my old athletes that I trained for a few years. Caitlin was a pretty high level athlete that some of you know, some of you don't. This is one of her earlier videos. Caitlin was very, very hip dominant. Caitlin, I think for a while was trying to bend barbells with her hip. So yeah, she was very aggressive with her hip. So that was one of the first things we had to break out of her as an athlete. So in this video, you can see pretty easily. Oh yeah, sorry. There's a T. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Thanks,
I
bro.
T.
No,
Well,
I mean,
Richard's
you just
the
love the
fucking-
sound of your own voice.
Richard's the controller. You just kept talking, bro. I was like,
I
I guess he's got
like
it.
letting you introduce you.
I
That's
can
okay.
confirm.
Um,
That video is that CrossFit gym. We're probably
Is that Taneo?
2017. That's probably your year. That
All
I
right.
mentioned that I made you.
So let's play the video, guys. We'll watch this, and we're gonna see if we can diagnose what's happening here in terms of the bar path and what she's doing with her body. Okay, so we'll watch it again. What's the first thing that we see happening in the liftoff, guys? Okay, you guys see the shift of balance, right? So as she starts lifting off, she's not in a bad position. She's actually in a decent start position. When she starts lifting off, she shifts all the weight. I'm actually bummed that Yanni left because this was actually the video that he needed to see because this is what Yanni loves to do. She shifts the weight all the way back towards her heels for a split second, and then she comes through real hard with her hips and she heaves into the top. So we see this big jump back because all that balance has been displaced. And we see the bar crashing on her. Okay, so things that we could tell her that she needs to work on, obviously, to correct this. If I had an athlete who was doing this aggressively in here, we would do lift offs, we would do tempo snatches, we would do pull plus lift, that kind of thing. Anyone feel themselves doing this in their lift off quite frequently, whether forward or back? All right, next slide. All right, this is one of our old athletes. Ashley, this is actually at the old gym, which some of you guys may remember, some of you may not. She's doing a clean. All right, so what's happening in this?
Should do another one.
Yeah, we'll play it again.
And guys, in terms of bar path, be watching the bar path.
Yeah. Now, well, so she's popping the bar off of her hip here, right? Yeah. So as she comes up off the floor, she passes the knees and she winds up. She comes into her toes early and she brings her hip to the bar aggressively. So that bar pops off of her hip. So we can watch it in slow motion. You guys can see it. This weight is pretty light for her, so she's able to follow through and get it on her and make it look easier in the turnover and the catch, but there's definitely displacement off the hip. So I want you to watch the bar path, and what her body's doing is the bar passes the knee. After it passes the knee, sir. Ooh, yes.
Second, yeah.
Yeah. Pop. All right, so see how aggressively she is in her toes at this position? Where should she be at this position at the thigh? She should still be flat with her shoulders on top of the bar, right? But because she's here at this thigh position, at this contact position, she's winding up, she's using her hips instead of driving vertically with her legs. All right?
You can see her toes try to splay out, big pull. It's like, oh, wait, I'm in the wrong position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
like
she's
right.
like- So thigh work would be absolutely good for this, right? This is why we've been giving you guys a lot of thigh work to help you work on positionally the top of the lift, driving vertically with your legs. This is why you've heard so many times me yelling at you to A, pause in your start position, and B, stay on top of your bar while you drive, okay, from the thigh. If you're not in the right position and you're driving incorrectly from there, all the positional work that we would do to address this is not going to help correct it.
Constructively critique. We don't.
Yes, well, that's some people. Okay, next one. Times. Thoughts? Let's see what's happening. Watch it
My
one more
bad.
time. That's all right, Richard.
I know.
All right, so let's pause for a second in her setup. We're gonna go back down to her setup. We're just gonna pause for a second. So she gets her booty down. Okay, so where is she positionally? Is she in the right position? Oh, she's aggressively behind the bar. So as she goes to lift off, this barbell is gonna sweep out around her knees, and then she's just going to continue having to heave back on it to place it overhead.
For the record, all these videos are very old. These athletes have all like, if they are still lifting, they've made a ton of progress.
Yeah. Right, so this is a perfect example of like being in the wrong position off the floor, how it's gonna really mess with your pole later on. And then if you watch just the end of the barbell, you're gonna see this nice loop out away from her as soon as she lifts off, all right? All right, next slide. Right, yeah, this one's kind of a lot going on in this one too. Okay, again, we're gonna go down to her start position after we watched it a couple times. Okay, our armpits over the bar, her start position. Is she in the right start position? Nope. Right, so again, we're behind the bar, so the bar is gonna loop out around the knees. And I want you to watch, guys, so for this lifter, she was relatively new. I think she was a CrossFitter at this point, yeah?
Yeah.
So as the barbell goes around her knees and she continues to push past the knees, look how she never really closes the gap between her and the barbell. So she's created this rolling forward motion around the knees, and as she goes to push past the knees, the bar is so far out in front, she can't do anything to get it into her body. So there's this big gap between her and the bar through that hip phase, right? And she gets pulled forward. She does a good job of trying to follow through and get under it, but it's way out in front, all right? I think we have one more. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of our athletes, Braden. Oh, watch it again. Tight off the floor. His balance is midfoot. Is he on top of his bar? Is he behind his bar in his setup? I thought you were right there. On top of the bar, behind the bar, in his setup. We'll watch one more time. Slow motion. A little bit behind, right? So this video, he's not as aggressively behind as some of the other videos that you guys saw, but it's just enough to where, again, if you're watching this video, when you start off at an angle that is slightly behind the bar, as you go to push through the middle and past the knees, it's going to get exponentially worse, because instead of being on top of the bar and being able to control the bar path and balance, you pass the knees and you're already behind, you have nowhere else to go but continue to get back on your bar. You separate from the bar, you leave it out in front, yada yada.
Makes another one, right?
He makes another one, and I think he corrects it here a little bit better.
Still a little bit, yeah.
It's just that minor adjustment.
Brings it in better, I think.
He brings it in better.
Still a little.
I just wanted to
Any questions on any of these guys?
keep going. Oh, that's right, I did take your,
All right, that's the last one. Wait, what?
no, Brian.
Oh, great.
All right, so those of you that are remote, thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, let me stop sharing real quick. Bring you back to camera mode.
thank you guys for coming. Hope this was helpful. If you have any notes, obviously comments, message me or Tracy. We take all input, always appreciated and recognized. Thank you for coming in. You guys that are here, you guys, obviously, like, we're hanging out, whatever. We'll head into the lobby, have some coffee. You guys are always obviously welcome. Stick around, lift if you're not from 4-star or whatever. But questions, guys, any off the top right now? I'm gonna put on the session lifting right now. I think Maddie, right?
Yeah,
Maddie and Kate, and then guys, like wholeheartedly, I know everyone's rearing to get up, but like raise your hand. Can I get some input on like what you guys learned? Like big aha moments, anyone? Jerks? Visualization piece. Okay, awesome.
That's the one. My biggest thing. Just produce more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pulling, I used to absolutely trash myself. It's not what I've seen. It's not.
Yeah.
You're driving as hard as you can. Look at there, making that nice flat, aggressive leg. It's hard. You gotta wedge yourself under. You're getting crushed. Indiana Jones. You need to
I like that.
push yourself off.
Your Indiana Jones don't get crushed. For section 2, for section 2, guys, for the second quarter of the year, like, is there any, like, input wise, what would you guys like to see as like the 2 pieces talked on?
Snaps and like, dropping under the bar.
Like turnovers? The squat under, the pull under, pull under. Knee build-ups? Okay, would that be interesting to you guys? Like how to actually do like knee build-up, knee prep, like everything from like the psychological prepping to like actual lifting aspect. Okay. Okay, we'll talk. Thank you again for your time, guys. I respect it. Thanks for showing up.